Story 1. At 17, I got arrested after my stepdad accused me of SAing my little sister. My mom backed him, saying, "You're evil. I've always known it." I proved she was wrong, and now she's desperate to reconcile. Sup Reddit. Been raising my sister since I was 14 because mom checked out. Her new husband started acting weird around my sister. When I tried to protect her, I ended up handcuffed. I, 21 male, and my dad died when I was 14. Heart attack at 42. Just keeled over at his desk like someone unplugged him. No dramatic hospital goodbye, just a phone call from his boss, and 2 cops in our driveway when I got home from school. I walked up with my backpack, saw the squad car, and my stomach dropped. You can tell from a cop's face when they're about to wreck your world. Mom collapsed on the front lawn, screaming while neighbors stared. I just stood there holding my algebra textbook, thinking this was the moment everything ended. I was right. Mom completely lost it after that. First week, she didn't leave bed except to use the bathroom. Second week, crying in the bathroom for hours while I got ready for school in the kitchen sink. By week 3, I came home to find prescription pills scattered everywhere, and her watching their wedding video on repeat, zoned out and barely functional. "Mom, it's Tuesday morning. Don't tell me what I can't do. You didn't lose the love of your life." By month 2, she stopped pretending. Empty pill bottles lined the counter like trophies. She'd pass out on the couch, and I'd throw a blanket over her so she didn't freeze. The house went downhill fast. Bills piled up with red stamps. The electricity got shut off twice, and the fridge had nothing but condiments and dead takeout. I started stealing 20s from mom's purse for ramen and frozen pizza. She never noticed. Dad's life insurance paid out $150,000. Mom blew through $30,000 in 4 months on furniture she didn't need, online shopping she didn't remember, and lending money to her deadbeat sister, who ghosted the second the check cleared. By the time I was 15, we were broker than before Dad died. Then one night, she stumbled into my room at 2 a.m. and dropped the bomb. She was pregnant. 4 months along, Dad's kid, but she'd been too messed up to realize she'd missed 4 periods. She just stood there swaying, mascara running, telling me like it was my problem to fix. "You're what?" "Pregnant. 4 months. The doctor confirmed it today." "Mom, you've been taking pills every day for months." "I know," she sobbed. "I didn't realize." "Are you gonna stop now?" She didn't answer, just turned around and went back to her room. She didn't stop. Not even a little. I tried everything. Flushed pills. She'd get more. Hid her keys. She'd walk to the pharmacy. Begged her to think about the baby. She'd tell me to mind my own business. I was 14, watching my mom slowly harm my unborn sibling with nothing I could do about it. My sister Junia was born 2 months premature at County General. I got the call during second period, forged a note, and took 2 buses across town. Mom was screaming at nurses, refusing an epidural, causing a scene. Junia came out tiny and screaming, barely 4 pounds, blue from lack of oxygen. The NICU team swarmed her, while I watched through the window as they hooked my baby sister up to machines. A doctor pulled me aside. "Your mother consumed substances during pregnancy. The baby has fetal spectrum disorder." Translation: Junia's brain took damage before she was born. Learning delays, behavioral issues, motor control problems, years of therapy ahead. How bad? We won't know the full extent for a few years, but she'll need significant support. I looked at Mom passed out in her hospital bed, probably coming down from whatever she'd had before labor. Junia was in an incubator fighting to breathe. I was 14 years old, and I knew right then I was going to raise this kid myself. Junia stayed in the NICU for 6 weeks. I visited every day after school, sat by her incubator doing homework, talked to her through the plastic. The nurses got used to seeing me and started teaching me how to feed her, change her, recognize distress signs. "Where's your mother?" "Working," I'd lie. Mom showed up maybe 4 times in 6 weeks, always looking hungover, always leaving after 10 minutes. The nurses knew but didn't say anything. When Junia finally came home at 5 pounds, the pediatrician handed Mom a stack of pamphlets about therapy resources and specialist appointments. Mom threw them in the trash in the parking lot. So guess who became a teen dad at 14? This guy. I did the midnight feedings, changed the diapers, learned to mix formula from YouTube videos at 3 a.m. while Junia screamed her head off. She had colic, so she'd cry for hours straight. I'd walk her around the house at 4 a.m. bouncing her, singing stupid songs I barely remembered, forged Mom's signature on permission slips and medical forms, taught myself to cook, pasta, chicken nuggets, scrambled eggs, whatever would keep us both alive on $30 a week. I took Junia to pediatrician appointments on the city bus. 40-minute ride each way with a screaming infant. Sat in waiting rooms doing homework while specialists evaluated her and asked where my mother was. She's sick. She sent me instead. Nobody questioned it. Or maybe they did, and just didn't care enough to report it. The system's overloaded. One more struggling family doesn't register. At school, everyone thought I was just the quiet kid. They had no clue I was running a household and raising a baby. I'd show up with bags under my eyes, smelling like spit up, and teachers would ask if I was okay. Yeah, just tired. What else could I say? That'd get me thrown into foster care faster than you can blink. I kept my head down, did what I had to do, and survived. When I was 15, Mom started bringing home this absolute winner named Mallory. Picture every douchebag stereotype: backwards affliction hat, tribal tattoo sleeve, Ed Hardy shirts, stupid goatee. The guy looked like he walked out of a 2008 MMA gym and never updated his wardrobe. He was 35, unemployed, constantly talking about his business ventures that were about to blow up. Spoiler, nothing ever blew up except his child support payments from 2 other kids he didn't see. Mallory moved in after 3 weeks with garbage bags of clothes, an Xbox 360, and a collection of energy drinks. Didn't ask, didn't discuss it, just claimed the living room couch like he'd been there forever. At first, he tried the cool stepdad routine, offering me drinks when Mom wasn't looking, trying to talk football, calling me little man. I kept my distance. Something about Mallory felt wrong. The way he smiled didn't match his eyes. The way he'd watch people when he thought nobody was looking. My gut screamed predator. Mom married him 6 months later. Vegas wedding. I found out because she came home with a ring and a new last name, texted me a photo of them in front of some tacky chapel. She was convinced Mallory was going to save us, get his life together, be the man of the house Dad used to be. Yeah, that lasted about 5 minutes. Mallory got a job at a distribution warehouse loading trucks. Showed up under the influence on day 3. I overheard him bragging to Mom about taking the edge off before work. Got into a screaming match with his supervisor about being disrespected when the guy asked him to actually work. Fired by end of week 2. I came home and found him on the couch with his termination letter, playing it off like it was the company's fault. They had it out for me, babe. Toxic work environment. He never filed anything. After that, he just stayed home. Every single day, playing Call of Duty until 4 a.m., screaming into his headset, taking Mom's pills straight from the bottle, eating the groceries I bought with my Walmart paychecks. I'd buy a week's worth of food, and it'd be gone in 3 days. He'd leave dirty dishes everywhere like the world's worst roommate. I'd come home from school and work to find him on the couch in the same sweatpants he'd worn for 4 days, surrounded by energy drink cans and pizza boxes. Junia would be in her playpen with a full diaper, crying, while Mallory ignored her. Dude, Junia needs to be changed. I'm in the middle of a match. You do it. You've been home all day. And she's not my kid. But he sure acted like the man of the house when it came to making demands. That's when he started getting physical with me. I came home late from my Walmart shift one night. I was 16 now, working 25 to 30 hours a week, and Mallory started yelling about the trash. I'd forgotten because Junia had a fever that morning. You didn't take out the trash. I'll do it in the morning. I just got home. He was off the couch in a second, grabbed me by the shirt and slammed me into the wall hard enough to knock a picture frame down. Got right in my face, breath stinking like cheap cigarettes and energy drinks. When I tell you to do something, you do it. You live under my roof now, you little punk. My roof. My dad paid for this house. But I didn't say that. I wanted to swing on him so bad, fist clenched and ready. But Junia was one, asleep in the next room, and I couldn't risk getting kicked out. She had nobody else. So I swallowed it. Took the trash out at 11 p.m., seething the whole time. Mom walked past us during the whole thing. Saw Mallory slam me into the wall, heard him threatening me, said nothing. Just kept walking to her bedroom with her pill bottle. I tested her later that night. Mom, Mallory just assaulted me. He can't do that. You probably deserved it. You've been disrespectful lately. Disrespectful? I do everything around here. I take care of Junia. I pay for food. I clean. Mallory's the man of the house now. You need to show more respect. That's when I knew she'd chosen him over me. Over Junia. Over reality. The hitting became routine after that. Smack to the back of the head when I talked back. Punch to the ribs when my attitude made him mad. Shove into the counter when I didn't move fast enough. One time he grabbed my arm so hard he left finger-shaped bruises that lasted a week. Mom either didn't notice or didn't care. Probably both. I started documenting everything. Took photos of the bruises on my ribs, arms, back. Recorded Mallory screaming at me, calling me worthless, threatening to beat my butt if I didn't show respect. Saved screenshots of his text calling me a useless piece of garbage and telling me to get out of his house. I knew eventually I'd need proof, just didn't know for what yet. The worst part? Junia was starting to notice. She'd flinch when Mallory raised his voice, started calling me Bubba, because she heard Mallory call Mom Babe, and thought that's what you called people you loved. She'd cling to me whenever Mallory was around. She knew he was bad news, even at 1-year-old. Mallory started paying weird attention to Junia when she turned 2. At first, I thought he was just trying to play stepdad, picking her up, reading to her badly, offering to help with bath time and bedtime. Then I noticed patterns. Small things that individually didn't mean much, but together, red flags everywhere. He only volunteered to help when he could be alone with her. If I was home, he ignored Junia completely. But the second I left for work or school, suddenly he was dad of the year. He'd go into her room after bedtime and stay there for 10-15 minutes at a time. Checking on her, he'd say when I asked. Making sure she's asleep. But I'd hear him in there moving around, and Junia's bed would creak like someone was sitting on it. He started commenting on her appearance. Junia's getting so pretty. She's gonna be a heartbreaker when she grows up. Stuff that made my skin crawl. He'd insist on being the one to help her change clothes. Let me help, babe. You're tired. I got this. Then I walked in on him, holding her dirty clothes up to his face. I came home early from school one day, half day for finals, and the house was quiet. Mom's car was gone. Mallory's charger was in the driveway. I heard movement in Junia's room. Walked down the hall. Her door was cracked open. Mallory was standing there with her little frozen pajama top pressed against his nose, eyes closed, just inhaling. Deep breaths. His other hand was in his pocket. I cleared my throat. What the heck are you doing? He jumped like I'd tasered him, dropped the shirt immediately. His face went from panic to rage in half a second. Jesus, man, you scared me, just doing laundry, trying to help out. By smelling her clothes? It smelled like detergent. I was checking if it was clean. Why are you making it weird? But we both knew what I'd seen. The look in his eyes said everything. Pure panic, then calculation, then rage. He knew I'd caught something I wasn't supposed to see. Get out of her room. This is my house. Get out. He left, but not before giving me this look that said I was going to regret this. I didn't say anything to Mom. What would I say? Your husband was smelling Junia's clothes? She'd just accused me of causing drama, of being jealous, of trying to ruin her marriage. So I took action instead. Moved Junia's toddler bed into my room that night. Told Mom she was having nightmares and wanted to be near me. Mom didn't care. She was 3 pills deep and barely registered what I said. Mallory looked angry when he found out, but he couldn't argue without sounding suspicious. I stopped leaving Junia alone with him. Period. Not for 5 minutes. Not for 5 seconds. If I had to work, I dropped her at my coworker's place. Told her Mom was dealing with migraines and needed help with childcare. She had 2 kids of her own and didn't mind the extra one. Would text me pictures of Junia playing with her daughters, smiling, safe. If I was home, Junia was in my line of sight every single second. She ate when I ate, watched TV next to me, slept in my room. I became her shadow. Mallory noticed. Started making comments. You're real protective of her, huh? That's kind of weird, bro. Like, obsessively protective. You sure you're not projecting something? Some weird stuff? Classic predator move. Flip the script. Make me look like the problem. Just being a good brother. That ain't normal, man. The way you hover over her. It's creepy. I ignored him. But I started sleeping with my door locked and a chair wedged under the handle. Started keeping my phone charged 24/7, voice memo app ready. I'd record any conversation where Mallory was near Junia, just in case. I also started paying closer attention to his patterns. When did he go in Junia's room? What times was Mom passed out? When was I usually gone? I mapped it all out in a notebook I kept hidden under my mattress. He was smart, I'll give him that. Never did anything obvious when I was around. But I caught little things. The way he'd accidentally brush against Junia. The way he'd hold her a little too long when picking her up. The way he'd volunteer to give her a bath and then take 30 minutes when it should take 10. One night I pretended to leave for work. Clocked in, then immediately clocked back out claiming I felt sick. Came back home quietly, parked down the street, snuck in through the back door. Found Mallory in the bathroom with Junia. Door closed. I opened it without knocking. He was helping her dry off after a bath. Had the towel wrapped around her, but his hands were inside the towel. Drying her off, he said. Junia looked uncomfortable. Not scared, just uncomfortable. Like she knew something was wrong but didn't have the words for it. I got it from here. I'm almost done. I said I got it. He left, but the look he gave me was pure hatred. I knew then. I was running out of time. He was getting bolder, testing boundaries. Soon he'd cross a line I couldn't ignore, and I needed to be ready. Chapter 4. The phone and the fight. Mallory screwed up 3 weeks later. It was a Saturday morning. Mom had passed out on the couch the night before and hadn't moved. Junia was watching cartoons in my room, safe. I was in the kitchen making breakfast. Scrambled eggs and toast, nothing fancy. Mallory came out of the bathroom and left his phone on the counter. Just set it down while he grabbed an energy drink from the fridge. Normally, that phone was glued to his hand. He took it everywhere. Bathroom, shower, even to bed. Mom joked about it once. Said he loved that phone more than her. She wasn't wrong. But this time, steam from his shower had fogged up the screen and he just left it there while he went to find his vape pen or whatever. I'd seen him unlock it a dozen times. Always the same 4-digit pattern. Fool used the last 4 digits of his license plate. I'd memorized it months ago just in case. I didn't even think. Just grabbed it and punched in the code. I went straight to his photo gallery, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Scrolled past the usual stuff. Gym selfies, pathetic. Screenshots of sports scores. Memes he'd saved from Facebook. Then I saw a folder labeled private. Password protected. I tried 1, 2, 3, 4. Nothing. Tried his birthday. Nothing. Tried mom's name. Nothing. Then I tried Junia's birthday. 4 digits. Her birth month and day. It opened, and I wanted to throw up. Photos of Junia. Dozens of them. Close-ups of her in the bathtub. Water barely covering her. Pictures of her sleeping in poses that were clearly arranged. Legs spread. Shirt pulled up to expose her stomach and chest. Her pull-up pulled down in some. She was 2 years old. My baby sister. I started scrolling faster. The photos went back months. Different outfits, different angles, different times of day. Time-stamped, dated. Metadata intact, showing exact times and locations. March 15th, 2:47 p.m. I was at work. Mom was passed out. April 3rd, 9:23 a.m. I was at school. Mom was running errands, getting pills. May 8th, 6:14 p.m. I was at the grocery store. 20-minute window. He'd been doing this for half a year. Every time I left Junia alone with him, every time I couldn't protect her, he was in her room with his phone, taking pictures, violating my sister. The idiot didn't realize his phone auto-backed everything to the cloud. He probably thought deleting from the gallery did something. It didn't. Every image was sitting in multiple cloud accounts, synced and time-stamped. My hands started shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone. I wanted to scream. Wanted to run into his room and beat him to death with whatever I could find. But I didn't. I started airdropping photos to my phone. Got through maybe 15 when I heard footsteps behind me. What the heck are you doing with my phone? Mallory stood in the doorway, eyes locked on his phone in my hands. Then he saw what was on the screen. His face went white, then red. Give me my phone. Now. I saw everything. All the photos. Your search history. The cloud backups. He lunged at me. Actually threw himself across the kitchen, trying to grab his phone. I jerked backward, held it away from him. He grabbed my wrist, twisted it hard enough that I heard something pop. Give it back! I shoved him with my free hand. He stumbled back into the fridge, magnets and papers scattering everywhere. He came at me again, this time swinging. Caught me across the jaw. Snapped my head sideways. Tasted blood. I dropped his phone. We both went for it. I got there first, kicked it under the stove. Mallory grabbed me by the shirt, threw me against the counter. My ribs hit the edge, and something cracked. Pain shot through my side like lightning. You just signed your death warrant, you little... I swung back. Connected with his nose. Heard a crunch. Saw blood spray. He staggered back, hands to his face, screaming. Junia started crying from my bedroom. The sound cut through everything. I scrambled under the stove, grabbed both phones, and ran to my room. Locked the door. Mallory was pounding on it, screaming threats, calling me every name in the book. I pulled up my phone with shaking, bloody hands. Continued the airdrop. Watched the progress bar as Mallory threatened to break down the door. Ding, ding, ding. Each photo felt like an eternity. 48 more photos transferred. Then I opened his search history while he kicked the door hard enough to crack the frame. I'm not going to type out what was in there. If you've ever read about predators, you know the kind of searches I'm talking about. Specific terms, specific ages, specific forums. Sites I didn't even know existed. Cleared daily, but he'd forgotten to clear it that morning. Screenshot everything. Search history, cloud storage, folder contents. Every shred of evidence I could find. Then I checked his messages. Group chats with usernames I didn't recognize. Sharing photos, trading content. Talking about their experiences. One message from someone said, "Yours is cute. Trade?" Mallory had responded, "Maybe. Let me get some better angles first." The door splintered. Mallory's foot came through near the handle. I grabbed Junia, threw my phone in my pocket with his, and climbed out my bedroom window. Landed hard in the side yard, pain shooting through my ribs where I'd hit the counter. Junia was screaming, clinging to my neck. I ran to the neighbor's house, pounded on the door. Mrs. Chen answered, took one look at my bloody face and Junia crying, and pulled us inside. "Call 911, I told her. "Right now. Please." She did. I sat on her couch holding Junia while she cried, both phones in my lap, waiting for sirens. Cops showed up 8 minutes later. 2 patrol units, 4 officers total. Found Mallory in the kitchen holding frozen peas to his nose, spinning some story about me attacking him unprovoked. Found me at Mrs. Chen's with a split jaw and holding a screaming toddler. One of the officers took statements separately. I showed them both phones. Started with the airdropped images, walked them through timestamps, showed my work schedule proving I wasn't home. He caught me going through his phone and attacked me. That's why my face looks like this. I have photos of him molesting my sister. 63 of them, with timestamps. The officer's face got harder with each photo. They radioed for detectives. But Mallory was already spinning his narrative to the other officers. Officers, I honestly don't know what he did to my phone, but I've been genuinely concerned about him for months. He's obsessed with Junia, completely obsessed. Won't let anyone near her. Hovers constantly. He attacked me this morning completely unprovoked. Stole my phone. I think he put those photos there. He knows my passcode. He has access to everything. One cop looked at me. "How'd you get into his phone?" "I memorized his passcode." "So you accessed his phone without permission?" "Yeah, but..." "And you're accusing him based on photos from his device that you accessed illegally without permission?" "I have proof I wasn't home when these were taken. We'll need to verify all of that. This is complicated." Mom showed up 20 minutes later. Clearly not sober, mascara smeared. She backed Mallory completely. Mallory would never hurt Junia. My son's been paranoid for months, controlling. He's trying to get rid of Mallory because he's jealous. The cops looked at each other. "We need to take both of you in for formal statements. This is complex. Assault on both sides, illegal device access, serious allegations. We need detectives." They cuffed us both. "Not arrested," they said. "Detained for questioning." Through the window, I watched another officer stay with Junia. She was crying, reaching for me. At the station, they processed us separately. Put me in an interrogation room. No food, water when I asked, metal chair, metal table, fluorescent lights. 2 hours in, a detective came. Middle-aged guy, tired eyes, wedding ring, coffee-stained shirt. Sat down with a folder and said, "Talk." So I did. Told him everything. How dad died when I was 14. How mom fell apart completely. How I became Junia's parent at that age. How Mallory moved in. Started hitting me. Started acting weird around Junia. How I noticed the patterns. The comments. The bathroom trips. The volunteer bath times. How I found the photos that morning. How he caught me and attacked me. The detective took notes the whole time. Didn't interrupt, just nodded and wrote. Asked clarifying questions about timestamps, about my whereabouts, about Mallory's behavior patterns. "Why didn't you call us when you first suspected something?" And tell you what, my stepdad looks at my sister weird. You'd tell me to call back when I had proof. So you took matters into your own hands. I protected my sister. That's my job. By illegally accessing his phone. By gathering evidence that he's a predator. He stared at me for a long moment. Closed his folder. Then he left without another word. 3 more hours passed. The clock on the wall ticked past 3 p.m., then 4 p.m., then 5 p.m. My ribs hurt so bad I could barely breathe. My jaw throbbed. I kept thinking about Junia, wondering where she was, if she was scared. Around hour 5, the first detective came back. This time with another detective. Woman, maybe 40s, hard eyes, crossed arms. They both sat down across from me. "Your story checks out partially," he said. "Your work schedule matches some timestamps. School attendance confirms you weren't home during several incidents. But we have a problem. You illegally accessed his device. That's a crime." My stomach dropped. "However," she added, "the evidence is compelling. We're pulling his phone for full forensic analysis. We'll know by tomorrow if those photos originated on his device or were transferred from yours. If they're his, you're clear. If they're yours, you're looking at serious charges." "They're his!" "I swear, we'll know tomorrow. You're free to go pending investigation. Don't leave town. Don't contact Mallory or your mother. They released me at 8 p.m. No charges yet. Just pending investigation. I crashed at Mrs. Chen's that night. She took me to urgent care. 2 cracked ribs, split jaw. They wrapped me up. She paid because I had nothing. CPS took Junia to emergency foster care. I couldn't see her. Couldn't even call. Pending investigation, they said. The next day, the female detective called. Forensics came back. Those photos originated on Mallory's device. His camera app, his cloud, his IP. Timestamps match when you were verifiably elsewhere. We're arresting him. Multiple counts. You're clear. No charges for the phone access given the circumstances. But next time, call us first. What about Junia? CPS has her. You're 16. You can't have custody. She'll stay in emergency placement while we build the case. For how long? That depends on a lot of factors. Chapter 6. The Long Fight. A lot of factors meant 24 months of pain. Junia went to foster care. Decent family in the suburbs, experienced with developmental disorder kids, 2 biological children. CPS gave me supervised visits once a week. 1 hour, Thursdays at 4 p.m. Sterile office with cameras everywhere. First visit destroyed me. Junia saw me and screamed, "Bubba!" like I'd finally come to rescue her. Ran across the room, wrapped herself around my legs, wouldn't let go. When the hour ended and the social worker said we had to leave, Junia clung to me crying. "No, I go with Bubba. Bubba, please." Foster mom had to physically pry her off me while she sobbed and reached for me. I walked out, got to the parking lot, and punched a brick wall hard enough to split 3 knuckles. My CPS caseworker found me there. "This is going to be hard for a while, but you showing up matters. Keep showing up." So I did. Every single Thursday for 2 years. And I started building my case. Got a second job overnight stocking at Target. 70-hour weeks between Walmart and Target. $8.50 per hour at one, $9 per hour at the other. 7 days a week. Every penny went into savings labeled Junia's Fund. Ate ramen 3 meals a day. Sometimes plain because I couldn't afford eggs. Dropped 20 pounds in 3 months. Wore the same 3 shirts, same 2 jeans until the knees ripped through. Walked 2 miles to work to save bus fare. Lived on Mrs. Chen's couch because I couldn't afford rent. CPS said I had to wait until 18 to file for kinship guardianship. 2 years felt like forever. 24 months of Junia thinking I'd abandoned her. I got my GED in 6 months. Studied on the bus, during breaks, at 2 a.m. between shifts. Passed first try. Not because I cared about it, but because courts ask about education. Documented everything in a notebook. What we did during visits, how she acted, any concerns. Foster mom started sending photos between visits. "She asks about you every night," one text said. At month 4, Junia stopped asking when I was taking her home. She was adapting. That killed me more than anything. At month 9, I got promoted at Walmart. Shift supervisor. $15 per hour. More money, better schedule. Kept documenting. At month 10, I moved into my own place. 1 bedroom, $650 per month, roaches included. Set up Junia's room anyway. Purple walls. Twin bed. Toys from Goodwill. Took photos for the court. CPS did a home visit at month 12. Checked the fridge, stocked. Checked Junia's room, ready. Asked about my schedule, stable. "You've done everything right," my caseworker admitted. "I'll recommend transition planning when you turn 18. 3 more months." I enrolled in community college online. Business degree, night classes. 2 classes a semester while working full-time. Gonna take 6 years at this pace, but Junia needs to see me working towards something better. Mom tried coming back around during this time. Emails, texts, showing up at my apartment demanding to see her daughter. Said I'd stolen Junia, that she was the victim, that I'd manipulated everyone. Showed up one night completely intoxicated, pounding on the door screaming. I called the cops, didn't open the door, didn't say a word, just waited for the sirens. When they dragged her off the porch, she was sobbing. "Please, she's my daughter. He took her from me." Filed for a restraining order the next morning. Judge granted it same day. Mom's arrest record and the custody transcripts made it easy. Mallory took a plea deal. 15 years. His lawyer knew the evidence was bulletproof. 63 photos with metadata, cloud backups, search history, message logs. Pled guilty to multiple counts to avoid trial and publicity. He's upstate in maximum security. I hope every single day there is worse than the last. A detective called me a year after his arrest. Mallory's arrest led to a federal investigation. His network was bigger than we thought. 34 arrests across 8 states. You saved more kids than just your sister. Didn't make me feel better. Just made me angrier that the system didn't catch him sooner. I turned 18 on a Tuesday, filed for kinship guardianship that morning. Hearing was 6 weeks later. I showed up with my pro bono lawyer and a case file thick enough to need 2 hands. Documentation of caregiving since birth, medical records, bank statements, photos of mom's neglect, CPS reports, character statements from my bosses. Mom showed up to contest it. Fresh out of rehab, 30 days sober, lawyer in tow. I've completed treatment. I'm sober. I want my daughter back. You had 2 years to do that, my lawyer countered. Your son turned his life around at 16. Where were you? Foster mom testified. Said Junia was thriving, but wanted to go home to her brother. Said she'd seen how Junia lit up during visits, how she talked about Bubba constantly. The judge called Junia to chambers. Just her, the judge, a child advocate. 20 minutes later, they came out. Junia made herself very clear, the judge said. She wants to live with her brother. She calls him Bubba and Dad. When asked about her mother, she said, Mommy's sick. When asked about foster care, she said, Miss Rachel is nice, but I want Bubba. Direct quote from a 4-year-old. I felt something crack open in my chest. Relief, pure relief. I'm granting temporary custody to the petitioner, pending 6-month review. Mom lost it. Started screaming in the courtroom, calling me a thief, saying I'd stolen her daughter, that I'd manipulated everyone. Bailiffs had to physically remove her while she shrieked that I was evil, that I'd always been evil, that I'd ruined her life. I sat there feeling nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, just nothing. She was a stranger now. Some woman who used to be my mom before she chose pills and predators over her kids. I looked at my lawyer. When can I take her home? 3 days. Paperwork needs processing. Those were the longest 3 days of my life. I brought Junia home on a Friday afternoon. Walked her into the apartment, showed her the purple room I'd painted, the twin bed with frozen sheets, the toy box I'd filled with Goodwill finds. This is your room, Junie. Forever room. Nobody's taking you anywhere. She looked up at me with those big brown eyes Dad gave her. Promise? Promise. She believed me. Finally. The first 6 months were brutal. Night terrors, separation anxiety, meltdowns when I had to leave for work. She'd wake up screaming at 2 a.m., convinced I'd left. I'd find her by my door crying, checking if I was still there. Took a year before she stopped checking. 2 years before she stopped asking if I was taking her back. 3 years before she believed forever meant forever. Mom tried one more time 6 months after the custody hearing. Showed up sober this time, standing in the parking lot when I got home from work. Hair done, makeup on, holding a teddy bear like that changed anything. Please, just 5 minutes with her. I'm her mother. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw nothing. No connection. No history. Just some stranger who happened to give birth to my sister before choosing pills and predators over her kids. You're not her mother. You gave that up when you backed Mallory. When you let me raise her alone. When you chose everyone but her. I was sick. You were sick when you fought me for custody. When you showed up at the station defending a predator? You were sick for 2 years while I worked 70-hour weeks to get her back? She started crying. I made mistakes. You made choices. Now live with them. I walked past her into my building. Didn't look back. Heard her crying in the parking lot. Never saw her again. Last I heard from my aunt, she's in Florida with some new guy. Still telling people I kidnapped Junia. Still playing victim. Still blaming everyone but herself. She's alone now. No kids. No family. Nobody who gives a darn. And I've got a 7-year-old who calls me dad and knows I'll never leave her. That's all the revenge I need. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. Story 2. This story is titled, Caught My Brother in Bed with My Fiancé. Family forgave them, ambushed me at Christmas, and tried to reunite us. So I ghosted them forever and built a new life. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit, before I dig into the crazy mess, let me give you some backstory. Growing up in a small town outside Milwaukee, I always thought my family was my foundation. We weren't the type of people to leave things unsaid or go months without speaking. My brother Dylan and I were close in that competitive 2 boys under 1 roof kind of way. He was a year younger than me, and we'd always been compared to each other. He was the charming, free-spirited type, while I was the one with a plan. Our sister, Mia, was the baby and our mom's shadow, always soaking up every ounce of attention she could get. Our parents, Claire and Joe, were typical Midwest parents. Mom ran the household with an iron will, and Dad was the type to crack jokes and grill steaks like it was his personal hobby. I thought I had it all figured out. A stable family, siblings I could trust, and a fiance who I believed was my soulmate. Emma came into my life during a group project in my junior year at UW-Madison. She had this magnetic energy about her that made you want to be in her orbit. She was ambitious, confident, and ridiculously attractive. I fell for her fast. By the end of the semester, we were a couple. It felt like a whirlwind, but I didn't question it because it seemed perfect. I imagined our future together. Careers, kids, everything. One November, I proposed to her. It wasn't some grand gesture, just the two of us on a crisp autumn evening. She said yes, and we started planning our wedding for the following summer. It felt like the beginning of the life I'd always dreamed of. And then it all imploded. In March, I had a random slow Friday at work. I decided to surprise Emma with her favorite takeout and spend the evening together. When I walked into our apartment, everything felt off. Her shoes were by the door, but the place was eerily quiet except for faint laughter coming from the bedroom. My stomach tightened. Something felt wrong, but I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was watching a funny video or on the phone with a friend. When I opened the bedroom door, my world shattered. There they were, Emma and Dylan, tangled up in bed. Emma was wearing the oversized t-shirt I had given her for Valentine's Day, the one with the cheesy heart print. It wasn't hard to put two and two together. They froze, both of them looking like deer in headlights. It's funny how silence can say so much. The air in the room felt heavy, suffocating. Dylan, my own brother, had the audacity to say, "It's not what it looks like." I stared at him, almost laughing at the ridiculousness of it. Emma didn't say a word, just scrambled to cover herself with the blanket, like it would erase what I'd just seen. I didn't yell. I didn't ask questions. What was the point? The evidence was right in front of me. I looked at Emma and said, "Pack your SOT and get out." My voice was calm, steady. I wasn't about to give them the satisfaction of seeing me lose it. Dylan tried to speak, something about how it just happened, but I cut him off. "You're dead to me." I wasn't interested in hearing his excuses or fake remorse. There's no "it just happened" when it comes to sleeping with your brother's fiancé. I walked out. I didn't wait for an explanation or a pathetic apology. I grabbed my keys and drove to a friend's house. That night, as I stared at the ceiling, the reality of it all sunk in. My fiancé, the woman I planned to marry, and my brother, someone I trusted, had betrayed me in the worst way possible. It wasn't just about the cheating. It was the fact that they'd both actively chosen to destroy something I valued so deeply. The day after I caught Emma and Dylan, I didn't think things could get worse. But of course they did. While I was at work, Emma moved out of the apartment. I'd already told her to pack her stuff and leave, so I figured that was the end of it. But when I came home that evening, there was a note on the counter, sitting right where we used to keep a framed picture of us. It was short, but not sweet. She wrote that she fell in love with Dylan and never meant to hurt me, followed by some garbage about hoping I could find it in my heart to forgive them. She had the nerve to finish the note with, "I hope you can still be happy for us one day." Happy for them? I wanted to laugh, but it wasn't funny. It was infuriating. I crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. There was nothing left to say to her. The apartment felt eerily quiet without her stuff, but I didn't care. I wanted her out of my life as fast as possible, and now she was. My family found out what happened within a few days. I didn't tell them. I'm guessing Emma or Dylan spilled the beans. My mom, Claire, called me immediately. She was furious. Not at me, but at Dylan. She kept saying how she couldn't believe her own son would betray me like that. "He's not welcome here," she said over and over again. At first, it felt good to have her on my side, but I wasn't naive enough to think it would last. My mom's loyalty has always been conditional. She's the type who prides herself on keeping the family together, even if it means sweeping massive betrayals under the rug. I figured it was only a matter of time before she started defending Dylan. My dad, Joe, was a different story. When I finally answered one of his calls, he didn't say much. He just sighed and said, "Well, I guess things like this happen sometimes." I couldn't believe it. He wasn't angry, upset, or even surprised. He treated it like Dylan spilling coffee on my shirt instead of nuking my relationship and my trust in him. Mia, my younger sister, tried to be supportive, but I could tell she was conflicted. She'd call to check on me and say she couldn't believe what Dylan and Emma did, but there was always hesitation in her voice. She was caught between me and the rest of the family, and it was obvious. For weeks, I ignored most of their calls. I didn't have the energy to rehash what happened or hear excuses about why I should let it go. Instead, I threw myself into work. It was the only thing keeping me sane. My boss, Kevin, noticed I was putting in extra hours and asked if everything was okay. I didn't tell him the full story, but I admitted I was dealing with some personal stuff. That's when he mentioned the Indianapolis office. Apparently, they'd been struggling to find someone to lead the team there, and Kevin thought I'd be a perfect fit. It was a promotion and a chance to get out of Milwaukee, far away from Dylan, Emma, and all the mess they'd created. I didn't hesitate. I told him I was interested. When I told my parents about the relocation, my dad just said, "Good for you. A fresh start might be what you need." My mom, on the other hand, acted like I'd announced I was moving to Mars. She cried and begged me to reconsider. "What about family dinners? What about Christmas? You can't just leave us behind, Alex." I told her I wasn't leaving them behind. I was leaving Dylan behind. "He's not part of this family anymore," she said firmly. But I didn't believe her. My mom has a way of saying one thing and doing the exact opposite when it suits her. By July, my gut feeling was proven right. Dylan was back in the house. My mom called me one evening, casually dropping that they'd decided to let him come home for a while because he had nowhere else to go. She acted like it was no big deal, like she wasn't inviting the person who had betrayed me into her home, while still expecting me to show up for Sunday dinners. I didn't even try to hide my anger. I told her it was a slap in the face, that she was choosing him over me. She tried to justify it, saying, "He's still my son. I can't turn him away." I snapped back, "Well, he's not my brother anymore, and I don't want anything to do with him." That's when she started her family unity campaign. She went on and on about how we needed to heal and move forward as a family. It was all code for, "Just forgive Dylan, so I don't have to feel guilty about letting him back in." I wasn't having it. I told her, plain and simple, that I wasn't interested in healing or pretending things were okay. "You want unity? Then maybe stop rewarding the person who blew everything apart," I said before hanging up. After that, I kept my distance. I was busy preparing for the move to Indianapolis anyway. I found a place, packed up my apartment, and started fresh in a city where no one knew my family or my past. Leaving Milwaukee wasn't easy. I had good memories there, and part of me felt like I was letting Dylan and Emma win by leaving. But staying would have been worse. Every street, every restaurant, every shared memory, it all reminded me of what I'd lost. Moving was the only way to truly start over. By the time I left, I'd all but cut ties with my family. I wasn't answering their calls or responding to their texts. Even Mia's attempts to stay neutral didn't matter anymore. They'd made their choice by letting Dylan back in, and I'd made mine by leaving them behind. I didn't know what the future would hold, but one thing was clear. I was done being the good son who always put family first. From now on, I was putting myself first. It was time to rebuild, on my terms. By September, I had gotten comfortable with my new life in Indianapolis. Cutting ties with my family had been the best decision I'd made, even if it wasn't an easy one. Work was going well, I'd started to make some new friends, and the distance from all the chaos was exactly what I needed. Then my mom, Claire, called me. It was her birthday coming up, and she wanted me to come home to celebrate. I hesitated. My relationship with her had been strained ever since she let Dylan back into the house. But she kept pushing, saying it would be just the immediate family and that she missed me. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The drive to my parents' house was long, giving me way too much time to second-guess my decision. I told myself I was doing this for my mom, even if she had disappointed me. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad if it was just her, my dad, and Mia. When I pulled up to the house, I immediately knew something was off. There were way too many cars parked outside. My stomach dropped when I spotted Dylan's car in the driveway. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I debated turning around, but I didn't want to give my mom the satisfaction of bailing. I decided to walk in, keep it short, and leave as soon as possible. As soon as I stepped through the door, my mom greeted me with a big smile, acting like nothing had ever happened. "Alex, I'm so glad you came," she said, pulling me into a hug. Her energy was over the top, like she was trying to smooth things over with sheer force of will. I glanced around the living room, and there they were, Dylan and Emma, sitting on the couch like they didn't have a care in the world. Emma even had the nerve to laugh at something Mia said, as I stood there frozen in disbelief. "Why are they here?" I asked, my voice low but sharp. Before my mom could answer, she grabbed my arm and ushered me further into the house. "Let's talk in the living room," she said, like that would somehow make this less awful. When we got to the living room, my mom started her usual spiel about healing and family. She sat me down and launched into this speech about how Dylan and Emma made a mistake but were truly sorry, and that it was time to move forward as a family. Dylan, ever the shameless one, chimed in with, "I'm sorry, man, it just happened." He said it like he'd spilled coffee on my shirt instead of nuking my entire life. Emma followed up with, "We never meant to hurt you," which sounded even more ridiculous coming from her. She wasn't even trying to look remorseful. I stared at them, trying to figure out if they actually believed their own nonsense. The fact that they thought this was even remotely fixable was almost laughable. I leaned forward, looked Dylan dead in the eye, and said, "You're a pathetic excuse for a brother." Then I turned to Emma. "And you? I hope he cheats on you too. You deserve each other." The room went dead silent. My mom started to say something, but I didn't give her the chance. I stood up, looked her square in the eye, and said, "Enjoy your golden boy. Don't call me again." As I walked out, I could hear my mom trying to calm everyone down, saying something about how I'd come around eventually. Dylan didn't say a word, and Emma just sat there. I got into my car and drove off without looking back. My mind was racing. How could my mom think this was okay? How could she expect me to forgive and forget? Like this was some minor disagreement instead of a betrayal that ripped my life apart? I spent the rest of the day trying to cool off, but I couldn't shake the anger. I kept replaying the scene in my head, wishing I'd said even more. Part of me wanted to call my mom and unload everything I was feeling, but I knew it wouldn't make a difference. She'd already made her choice when she welcomed Dylan and Emma back into her life. That night, I blocked her number. I blocked Dylan's too, even though he hadn't reached out in months. I figured it was only a matter of time before he or Emma tried to clear the air again, and I didn't want to deal with it. For the next few weeks, I kept to myself. Work became my escape, and I threw myself into every project I could find. My coworkers probably thought I was just super dedicated, but the truth was I didn't know how else to channel my frustration. I stopped checking social media too. Seeing pictures of my family would only remind me of what happened, and I didn't need that kind of negativity. I told myself I was better off without them, but it still stung to know that the people I once trusted most had let me down so completely. Eventually, I started to feel a little better. The distance was helping, and I was slowly rebuilding my life. I told myself that I didn't need them, that I could create my own version of family with people who actually cared about me. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. My mom wasn't the type to give up easily, and I had a feeling she'd find another way to drag me back into the drama. For now, though, I was content to keep my distance and focus on myself. Let them have their family unity. I'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who didn't value me. If they wanted to live in denial about what Dylan and Emma had done, that was their choice. I wasn't going to be a part of it. I didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. I was done letting them dictate my life. From now on, I was living on my own terms. By January, life in Indianapolis had become everything I hoped it would be. It felt good to be miles away from the chaos my family had created. I wasn't waking up every day angry anymore. I had space to breathe, think, and focus on myself. That's when Sarah, my distant cousin, slid into my messages. I barely knew her. We'd only met a few times at family events over the years. And even then, I don't think we ever exchanged more than a few words. So, when she messaged me out of nowhere saying she was moving to Indianapolis and could use some help settling in, I was skeptical. At first, I debated ignoring her message entirely. My family had proven time and time again that getting involved with them, even peripherally, was a mistake. But part of me felt bad. Sarah hadn't done anything to me personally, and she might not even know the full story of what had gone down. Besides, she seemed genuinely nervous about moving to a new city alone. Against my better judgment, I agreed to help her. The weekend came, and I showed up at the address she sent me. It was a small apartment complex in a quieter part of town, and as I pulled into the parking lot, everything seemed normal. That was until I saw the U-Haul truck and two very familiar figures unloading boxes. Dylan and my dad. For a moment, I froze, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My first instinct was to back out of the parking lot and never look back. But before I could, the front door of the apartment opened, and out came my mom. She spotted me immediately and waved, like this was some sort of family reunion instead of a trap. "Alex, wait!" she yelled, jogging toward my car. I put the car in park and stepped out, but I didn't move any closer. "What the hell is this?" I asked, gesturing toward Dylan and my dad, who were now standing awkwardly by the truck. My mom gave me her usual let's all be reasonable look and started rambling about how Sarah just needed some help, and it made sense for the family to come together. It was clear this wasn't about Sarah at all. This was about them finding another way to force me into some kind of reconciliation. Dylan, ever the master of insincere apologies, stepped forward with tears already welling up in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Alex," he said, his voice trembling like he was auditioning. "I know I messed up. I just want to fix things." I stared at him, completely unmoved. It was the same script he'd tried at my mom's birthday party, and it was just as pathetic now as it was then. Then, my dad decided to jump in. "Alex, come on," he said, his tone that irritating mix of exasperation and condescension he always used when he thought I was being unreasonable. "You're holding on to this grudge, and it's tearing the family apart. Be the bigger man." That was it. Hearing him tell me to be the bigger man, as if Dylan's actions were some minor mistake I needed to get over, sent me over the edge. He had no idea what it felt like to be betrayed by your own brother, to lose not just a relationship, but the trust you had in the people closest to you. When my dad stepped closer and put a hand on my shoulder, I reacted without thinking. My fist connected with his face before I even realized what I was doing. The sound of it was sharp, and for a moment, everything went still. My dad stumbled back, holding his jaw, and stared at me in shock. Dylan looked like he wanted to disappear, and my mom, predictably, burst into tears. "Alex!" she sobbed, as if I was the one ruining everything. "How could you?" Dylan muttered something under his breath about me going too far, but I didn't even bother responding. I turned and walked back to my car. "Don't follow me," I said over my shoulder. When I got home, I blocked Sarah immediately. I didn't care if she was part of the setup or just a pawn in my mom's latest scheme. Either way, I wanted nothing to do with her. That night, I sat on my couch, trying to process what had just happened. I wasn't proud of losing my temper, but I didn't regret it either. My dad had crossed a line, and if a punch to the face was what it took to make them understand that I wasn't going to be manipulated, so be it. The worst part was that this wasn't even surprising. My mom had always been willing to bend over backward to protect Dylan, no matter how much damage he caused. And my dad? He was more concerned with keeping the peace than actually addressing the problem. I wondered how long they'd been planning this. Had they been talking to Sarah for weeks, convincing her to reach out to me? Or was it a last-minute idea? Either way, it didn't matter. What mattered was that I'd walked away before they could rope me back in. The next morning, I woke up feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief because I'd stood my ground, but sadness because it was yet another reminder of how far gone my family was. There was no fixing this. They didn't see Dylan and Emma's betrayal for what it was, and they never would. I decided that day to cut ties even further. I wasn't going to give them any more opportunities to pull me into their mess. My life in Indianapolis was good, and I wasn't about to let them ruin it. Whatever they wanted from me, closure, forgiveness, a return to normal, they weren't going to get it. I was done being the scapegoat, the one expected to keep the family together while everyone else did whatever they wanted. From now on, I was focusing on myself. They could keep their fake apologies and forced family unity. I didn't need any of it. By December, I was in a much better place emotionally and mentally. Life in Indianapolis was steady, and I had started dating Hannah, 24F, a woman who quickly became my rock. She was everything I needed: kind, funny, supportive, and most importantly, she respected my boundaries. She knew about the mess with my family and never once pressured me to reconnect. Hannah's family lived in Chicago, and she invited me to spend Christmas with them. It was the first time in years that I was genuinely looking forward to the holidays. Her parents were warm and welcoming, her siblings were great, and there was none of the tension and drama that had plagued my family gatherings for as long as I could remember. A week before Christmas, though, I got a letter in the mail. I almost ignored it because I didn't recognize the handwriting. When I opened it, my stomach dropped. It was from my mom. She wrote that Dylan and Emma had gotten married and that my parents were now separated. She didn't go into detail about why, but she kept emphasizing how much the family needed me this Christmas. She begged me to come home, saying it could be a chance to heal and to move forward. I read the letter twice, trying to figure out what she was really asking for. Was this about me? Or was it just another attempt to fix the mess Dylan had created? The mention of their marriage made me sick to my stomach. It felt like a slap in the face, a reminder that they had moved on without a shred of remorse for what they'd done. When I showed the letter to Hannah, she suggested I let it go. "You don't owe them anything," she said gently. "If it's just going to hurt you, there's no reason to put yourself through that." She was right, of course, but a small part of me still felt guilty. Not for cutting them off, but for the fact that I couldn't shake the sense of obligation my mom always tried to instill in me. In the end, I decided to spend Christmas with Hannah's family. They lived in a cozy house in the suburbs of Chicago, and as soon as we arrived, I knew I had made the right choice. Her parents greeted me with hugs, and her mom immediately started fussing over whether I liked hot chocolate or mulled cider better. It was simple and wholesome in a way I hadn't experienced in years. We spent Christmas Eve decorating the tree, baking cookies, and playing board games. It was the kind of holiday I'd always wanted, but never really had. For once, I wasn't waiting for some kind of argument to break out. Christmas morning was just as peaceful. Hannah's family had a tradition of opening presents in their pajamas, and they even had a stocking for me with my name on it. It was thoughtful, simple, and made me feel like I belonged. But even in the middle of all that warmth and happiness, the thought of my family lingered in the back of my mind. I couldn't help but wonder what they were doing, whether my mom was sitting alone in the house, whether my dad was celebrating at all, or whether Dylan and Emma were playing happy couple while the rest of them pretended everything was fine. I pushed the thoughts aside and focused on the moment. I wasn't going to let their drama ruin this for me. In January, just as I was settling back into my routine, I got an email from Mia. I hadn't heard from her in months, so seeing her name in my inbox was a surprise. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Mia wrote that my dad was now living in a motel, and Dylan and Emma were struggling financially. She didn't go into too much detail, but she hinted that Dylan's work situation wasn't stable, and that Emma was apparently unhappy in their marriage. I stared at the screen, trying to figure out why Mia thought I needed to know any of this. Was she looking for sympathy? Did she expect me to swoop in and fix things? If so, she was going to be disappointed. I didn't respond to the email. What was I supposed to say? Sorry to hear that, but it's not my problem. I wasn't going to get dragged back into their mess, no matter how bad things got for them. They had made their choices, and now they had to live with the consequences. Still, a part of me felt vindicated. They were struggling, and while I didn't take pleasure in their suffering, I couldn't help but feel like it was karma catching up to them. Dylan and Emma had destroyed my life, and now their perfect little bubble was starting to crack. Hannah noticed I was quieter than usual that evening and asked if everything was okay. I told her about the email, and she just nodded, her expression soft but firm. You've done the hard work of moving on, she said. Don't let them pull you back in. She was right. I had spent too much time rebuilding my life to let their problems derail me now. Whatever was happening with my family wasn't my responsibility anymore. The next morning, I deleted Mia's email and blocked her address. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I wasn't going to let them use guilt or pity to worm their way back into my life. That Christmas with Hannah's family felt like a turning point. For the first time, I realized what it meant to be truly free of the toxicity I had grown up with. I didn't need my family's approval or their validation. I had found people who cared about me for who I was, not for what I could do for them. The chaos of my past wasn't going to define me anymore. I had built a new life, and I wasn't looking back. By the time June rolled around, I was feeling good about how far I'd come. My life in Indianapolis was stable. My relationship with Hannah was growing stronger every day, and my family was nothing but a distant memory. I had blocked them all, ignored every half-hearted attempt to reach out, and focused entirely on myself. But of course, they weren't done with me. One Saturday morning, I was getting ready to head out for a run when I heard a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, and when I looked through the peephole, I froze. It was Mia. I hadn't seen her in over a year, and for a split second, I considered pretending I wasn't home. But eventually, I opened the door, and she immediately started crying. Alex, I'm so sorry, she said, stepping into the hallway before I could invite her in. I should have stood up for you more. I should have done more. Her words caught me off guard. For so long, Mia had been this passive presence in my life, someone who never outright hurt me but never really defended me either. Hearing her take responsibility was unexpected, and I wasn't sure how to respond. I cut ties with Dylan and Emma, she continued. And Mom, I just couldn't take it anymore. I folded my arms and leaned against the doorframe. What do you want, Mia? She hesitated, wiping her eyes. I just want to talk. Dad wants to talk too. Can we meet? Please? I should have said no. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to shut the door and move on with my day. But there was something about the way she looked at me, pleading, desperate, that made me pause. Against my better judgment, I agreed. A few days later, we met at a quiet diner on the edge of the city. Mia was already there when I arrived, sitting with our dad, Joe. I hadn't seen him since I punched him in the face outside Sarah's apartment, and the tension between us was palpable. He stood up as I approached, extending a hand. I didn't take it. Instead, I sat down across from them and waited for one of them to speak. I'm sorry, my dad said finally, his voice low. For everything. I should have done more to protect you. I should have handled things differently. It wasn't much, but it was more than I expected. For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, things could be salvaged. Then the door to the diner opened, and my mom walked in. I tensed immediately, and my dad had the decency to look embarrassed. She wanted to come, he said, as if that excused blindsiding me. And of course, right behind her were Dylan and Emma. I stood up, ready to leave, but Mia grabbed my arm. Please, Alex, just hear them out. That was it for me. I stood up, cutting my mom off before she even started talking. You're not my family anymore, I said, my voice cold and steady. You want forgiveness? Find someone else to manipulate. I'm done. I threw some cash on the table for my coffee and walked out, ignoring the voices calling after me. That was the moment I knew there was no going back. They could beg, plead, and cry all they wanted, but I was done being the scapegoat for their dysfunction. Now at 28, I feel like I've lived several lifetimes since the chaos of my family unfolded. When I look back at everything that's happened, it almost doesn't feel real, like it was someone else's life. But the scars remind me it was all too real. The good news? I've come out stronger, wiser, and surrounded by people who actually care about me. Hannah and I got engaged last year. It was nothing fancy, just the two of us at our favorite park in Indianapolis. I didn't go for some grand gesture because I'd learned that real love doesn't need a spectacle. When I asked her to marry me, she cried and said yes immediately. That moment felt like the final piece of the puzzle I'd been trying to solve since everything fell apart. She's not just my fiancé, she's my partner in every sense of the word. She supported me through all the ups and downs, listened without judgment, and never once tried to push me back toward the family I left behind. With her, I feel safe in a way I never thought possible after what Dylan and Emma did. The biggest news, though, we're expecting our first child. It's a boy, and every time I think about holding him for the first time, I get this overwhelming mix of excitement and nervousness. I never thought I'd be ready for fatherhood after the mess I grew up in, but Hannah's confidence in us gives me hope. We're going to do everything we can to give our son a life full of love, respect, and stability. The kind of life I didn't have. One of the first steps I took toward completely cutting ties with my family was changing my last name. I didn't rush into it. For a while, I thought it might be too extreme, or that it wouldn't make much of a difference. But as time went on, I realized that my last name felt like an anchor to the past, and I was ready to let it go. It was a strange feeling, standing in the courthouse and filling out the paperwork. When the judge signed off on it, I felt this unexpected sense of relief, like I'd finally closed a door I'd been afraid to shut completely. I chose a last name that felt meaningful to me, something tied to a personal hero rather than my family tree. Hannah was fully supportive. She even joked that she'd take my new last name once we got married, saying, "We're starting our own legacy now." That really stuck with me. The idea of creating something new, something separate from all the pain and betrayal, became my focus. I've heard bits and pieces about what's been going on with my family since I cut them off. Not because I seek it out, but because mutual acquaintances sometimes slip up and mention it. Apparently, my parents are officially separated now. My dad is living in a tiny rental on the outskirts of town, and my mom is still in the family house trying to keep up appearances. Dylan and Emma? Let's just say karma hasn't been kind to them. They're drowning in debt, and from what I hear, their marriage is on shaky ground. Emma lost her job, and Dylan's work situation is far from stable. The irony isn't lost on me. After everything they did to tear me down, they're the ones struggling to keep their heads above water. As for Mia, her fiancé left her a few months before their wedding. I don't know the details, and honestly, I don't care to. She made her choice to stand by Dylan and Emma when it mattered most, and that's not something I can forgive. The last time I heard from any of them directly was over a year ago, when my mom sent me another letter begging me to reconnect. I didn't even open it. I tossed it straight into the trash. Whatever regret they feel now is their burden to carry, not mine. One of the biggest lessons I've learned through all of this is the importance of setting boundaries. For so long, I let my family push me around, guilt me into forgiving them, and make me feel like their problems were my responsibility. Cutting them off wasn't easy. It was messy, but it was the only way to truly move forward. Sometimes I wonder if my family ever looks back and regrets their choices. Do they think about the pain they caused? Do they realize how much they lost by betraying me? I'll probably never know, and that's okay. Their regret, or lack of it, doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that I've finally found peace. If anyone reading this is going through something similar, let me tell you, it's not easy to walk away from toxic relationships, especially when they're family. But sometimes, it's the only way to protect your peace and create the life you deserve. You're not obligated to keep people in your life just because of shared DNA. I've learned that family isn't about blood. It's about the people who show up for you, support you, and love you unconditionally. And with Hannah by my side and our little one on the way, I finally have the family I've always wanted. Story 3. This story is titled, Fiancé Decided I Wasn't Good Enough After She Got Fit, so I dumped her and canceled the wedding. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Man, 27 male, never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to get this off my chest. Been with my fiancée, I'll call her Amy, 27 female, for 9 years, since we were both freshmen in college. You know those relationships where everything just feels right? That was us. Or at least I thought it was. We met at this stupid campus event. I was helping set up chairs. Yeah, I was that guy who actually volunteered for stuff. And she was there with her friend group. She was shy back then, kind of kept to herself, but we got talking about random stuff and just clicked. Started dating a few weeks later. What drew me to Amy the most back then wasn't just how pretty she was. It was how genuinely kind and humble she wasn't flashy, didn't care about expensive things, and always talked about wanting a simple, happy life. She'd rather stay in and watch movies than go out partying. She got excited over small things, finding a new coffee shop, getting a good deal on groceries, or even just spotting a cute dog on the street. She had this way of making normal, boring moments feel special. And man, she used to be so sweet. The kind of person who'd write little notes for me if she left early, surprise me with my favorite snacks, or send a random thinking of you text just because. Things were great for years, like genuinely great. We moved in together after graduation, got decent jobs, had this whole future planned out. I proposed years ago. Nothing fancy, just a nice dinner at home, and then I got down on one knee. She cried. I cried. It was perfect. That's when everything started changing, but I was too dumb to see it coming. Right after the proposal, Amy said she wanted to wait to set a wedding date until she reached her goal weight. Said she wanted the dress to fit in to look perfect in the wedding photos. Made sense to me. Everyone wants to look good on their big day, right? I had her back 100%. Got her workout gear, stocked the house with healthy food, and listened to all the talk about calories, macros, and whatever else. Even gave some of her workouts a shot, but they weren't really my thing. I'm more of a powerlifting guy. Built for strength, not endurance. Got that strongman, bear mode physique going on. Never used to be a problem. In fact, she loved it. Always said she felt safe when I hugged her. She started going to this fancy gym downtown. That's where she met Jen, her new trainer. At first, Jen seemed cool, really motivated, always posting inspiring stuff on social media. Amy would come home from sessions with her all excited about reaching new goals. I was happy for her. The weight started coming off pretty fast, like noticeably fast. Amy was working really hard, I'll give her that. But with every pound she lost, she seemed to get different, more distant. Started spending more and more time at the gym, always texting with Jen about workout plans and meal prep. Then the comments started, little ones at first. Maybe you should try eating what I'm eating? Or, Jen says couples who work out together stay together? I tried not to let it bother me, but they kept coming, getting more frequent, more pointed. One night, we were getting ready for bed, and Amy was checking herself out in the mirror. By then, she'd lost about 50 pounds. Then, without even looking at me, she goes, "You know, guys at the gym have started noticing me." Said it super casual, like she was commenting on the weather. I laughed it off, tried to make a joke, but something about the way she said it made my stomach twist. I still remember exactly what she said next. It's crazy how many options there are once you get in shape. Options. That word stuck in my head, like I was just one option among many now. Started noticing other changes too. Her Instagram posts got more attention-seeking, I guess. Lots of gym selfies, progress pics, that kind of thing. The comment section was always full of random guys leaving fire emojis and worse. She said it was just part of building her brand, whatever that means. Our regular date nights turned into her taking pictures of everything for social media. Couldn't just enjoy a meal anymore. Had to get the perfect angle, the perfect lighting. Sometimes the food would be cold by the time she finished taking pictures. Looking back now, I can see all the warning signs. How she started dressing different, not just because of the weight loss, but like, provocative? Started wearing crop tops to family dinners, that kind of thing. I kept telling myself it was just a phase, that she was just excited about her progress. People get like that when they're working towards a goal, right? Get a little obsessed, a little focused on themselves. It'll pass, I thought. But the changes in Amy just kept getting more obvious. By month 8 of her fitness journey, that's what she called it on social media, she'd lost over 100 pounds. And honestly, she looked incredible, like straight up model level gorgeous. Not gonna lie about that. But her personality, that changed way more than her body did. Remember that trainer Jen I mentioned? Turns out she wasn't just a trainer. She was running this whole women's empowerment thing at the gym. Sounds good, right? Except her version of empowerment was basically telling girls they needed to level up and find better guys. Amy started repeating all these weird phrases Jen would say, like, know your worth and never settle. So I noticed how Amy started critiquing everything about me. She never did that before. My clothes, you dress like a dad, my workouts, powerlifting is going to make you fat. Even the way I eat, no one needs that much protein. It was constant. Every day, some new comment about how I needed to change. The worst part? She'd do it in front of people. Like when her gym friends came over for dinner. Yeah, that was a thing now. Every meal had to be Instagram-worthy. She'd make these jokes about how I was letting myself go while she was glowing up. Her friends would laugh, and I'd just sit there feeling like garbage. Started noticing weird stuff on her phone too. She'd get all these DMs from random guys, which she said was just networking. Changed her phone password. Started taking her phone with her everywhere, even to shower. Real subtle, right? One day I was doing laundry and found this tiny gym outfit in her bag, way smaller than what she usually wears to work out. Asked her about it and she got super defensive, said it was for a special project with Jen. Didn't think much of it at the time. Wish I had. Things got worse at the gym too. She'd spend hours there, way longer than any normal workout should take. Always had some excuse. Extra cardio, posing practice, whatever that is. Meetings with Jen about business opportunities. Started going on weekends too, even though we used to have this rule about weekends being our time together. The social media stuff was getting out of control. Every post had to be perfect. She'd make me take like 50 pictures of her in different poses, then complain that none of them were good enough. Started posting these motivational captions about not letting anyone hold you back and reaching your full potential. Pretty sure those were aimed at me. I also noticed she wasn't wearing her engagement ring anymore. At first, I thought maybe she took it off for the gym, but then I realized she wasn't wearing it anywhere anymore. I asked her about it one day, and she just shrugged. Doesn't really match my gym aesthetic, she said, barely looking up from her phone. I tried to laugh it off. Oh, so your aesthetic is single now? She just smirked. Something like that. And that hit different. I didn't say anything, but deep down, something twisted in my gut. It was like she'd already decided. She was halfway out the door, just waiting for the right moment to leave. But the final straw for me was one morning. I was in the kitchen flipping protein pancakes, because, trying to be supportive of her diet, when Amy casually says, I could replace you so easily now. Just straight up, like she was commenting on the weather, like she was telling me we needed more eggs or something. I froze mid-flip, spatula in my hand, brain struggling to process if I actually heard that right. I felt it's too much. She literally crossed the line. I turned to her, trying to keep my voice even. What do you mean by that? She just laughed, waving a hand like it was some kind of joke. Oh, come on, don't get all serious. I just mean, I have options now. Options? I repeated, setting the spatula down. Since when was this a job listing? Amy smirked, grabbing her coffee. Relax. I just mean, things are different now. Like, this guy Mark at the gym? He's a personal trainer and runs his own business. That's the kind of ambition I need in my life. I just blinked at her. Ambition? Amy, we bought a house together last year. I'm literally a software engineer. I do pretty well for us. She shrugged, sipping her coffee like this wasn't completely insane. Yeah, but I don't know. It's different. Mark has that hustle, That drive. I stared at her, waiting for her to crack and admit this was some kind of weird joke. But she didn't. Just sat there, totally unbothered, like she hadn't just told me to my face that I was suddenly not enough for her. That was the moment something shifted. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on yet. But I knew. This wasn't just a joke. It was freaking disrespect. Then my friends noticed something was up. My buddy Tom tried to talk to me about it. Said Amy was acting different at group hangouts. Said she was flirting with guys right in front of me. I defended her just to brush their doubts. Said she was just being friendly. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Even my mom started asking questions. It's bad when your mom notices, right? She came over for Sunday dinner, another tradition Amy suddenly didn't have time for. And Amy spent the whole time on her phone, barely said 2 words to anyone. At that point, I started wondering if the Amy I knew was ever coming back, or if this was just who she was now. Every day, it felt like she was slipping further away, not just from me, but from everything we built together. The inside jokes, the lazy Sunday mornings, the way she used to light up when we talked about the future. Now, it was like she was living in a different world, one where I was just background noise. And yeah, I started doubting if this relationship had a future, if I was holding on to something that was already gone. But then I'd catch glimpses of the old her, like when she absent-mindedly reached for my hand in the car, or when she laughed at one of my dumb jokes, and I'd convince myself that maybe, just maybe, this was a phase she'd snap out of, that the person I fell in love with was still in there somewhere, just lost for a little while. Then, out of nowhere, Amy's sister Sarah texted me one morning asking if we could meet up, said it was important. Sarah and I always got along pretty well. She's younger than Amy, 25, but way more down to earth. We met at this little coffee shop near my work. Sarah looked really nervous, kept fidgeting with her cup. Finally, she just comes out with it. Amy's been saying terrible things about me to our whole family. Turns out Amy had been telling everyone how embarrassing it was to have a fat sister. Sarah's not even fat, she's just normal-sized. Said she couldn't have Sarah in her wedding photos because it would ruin her aesthetic. But that wasn't even the main reason Sarah wanted to talk. She'd found something way worse. See, Sarah works in IT and knows her way around computers. She noticed Amy had been making weird excuses about money lately, saying she needed extra cash for gym equipment and special training sessions. Sarah did some digging and found Amy's secret OnlyFans account. Not just random gym pics either, like really explicit stuff. And get this, she was using our house, for some of these photos. That weird gym outfit I found? Yeah, not for the gym. I was freaking sure that trainer Jen is the reason. She's got this whole side business going. Gets girls from the gym to start OnlyFans accounts, then takes a cut of their earnings. She sells it to them as female empowerment and taking control of their sexuality or whatever. Amy had fallen for it completely. I sat there in that coffee shop just staring at my cup. Sarah showed me some of the tamer posts, mostly gym pics, but with these suggestive captions about private coaching sessions and stuff. The account had been up for months, started right around when she changed her phone password. The worst part? In her OV bio, Amy wrote she was single. Just straight up erased our whole relationship. 9 years together, 2 years engaged, and I'm just gone. Like I never existed. Sarah told me more stuff too. Apparently, Amy had been going to these photo shoots at the gym after hours. That's what all those late-night training sessions and those business meetings with Jen, they were planning more content, finding ways to get more subscribers. I asked Sarah why she was telling me all this. She started crying, said she couldn't watch Amy destroy her life anymore, said Amy had changed so much she didn't even recognize her own sister. The girl who used to bake cookies for homeless shelters was now posting links to her off in random guys' DMs. She also showed me screenshots of Amy's private Instagram messages. Hundreds of conversations with random guys. Lots of them married dudes. Some even had kids. She was selling them special custom content, if you know what I mean. I just sat there feeling sick. All those times she was on her phone during family dinners, all those networking messages, yeah, now I knew what that was about. Sarah had more screenshots. Amy and Jen's messages planning this whole thing. Jen telling Amy she was too hot to be with some tech nerd and needed to find a guy on her level. Amy agreeing, saying she was ready to upgrade. Sarah even found messages from 6 months ago, where Amy was venting to Jen about how she wanted out, but wasn't financially stable enough yet. In one, she wrote, "I just need to hit 50,000 followers, then I can start pulling in real money. Until then, it's not smart to rush things." Another message had Amy complaining that she was stuck playing house with a loser, but at least he pays for everything so I can focus on my goals. She even admitted she was biding her time until she found someone better. Reading those messages made my stomach turn. I wasn't just an afterthought. I was a stepping stone. Sarah was really worried about me, kept saying she was sorry, that she should have told me sooner. But honestly, I was just grateful someone finally showed me the truth. Got back to work after that, but couldn't focus at all. Kept thinking about all those nights Amy was at the gym. All those times she was texting and smiling at her phone. Everything made sense now. That night I didn't go home. I couldn't. Just the thought of seeing her, acting normal like she hadn't completely shattered everything we built, made me sick. I crashed at my buddy Tom's place, lying awake, trying to process everything. Sarah kept checking in, making sure I wasn't spiraling, but honestly, I was too numb to even respond much. Instead, I spent the whole night just going through the evidence she sent me, staring at the screen like maybe I'd wake up and it would all be some messed up dream. But the more I looked, the worse it got. I found Amy's backup Instagram, one I had no idea existed. And yeah, it was bad. Way more revealing pictures than she'd ever post on her main account, like she was advertising herself. The comments were full of guys telling her how good she looked, how they'd treat her better than her current man. And the worst part? She responded. Winky faces, flirty replies, like our years together meant absolutely nothing. Like losing some weight was all it took for her to forget who she was, who we were. My stomach twisted, and for the first time I realized I wasn't just hurt. I was absolutely done. So I went home early the next morning. Figured she'd still be asleep since she usually sleeps in on weekday, her rest day. She was in the kitchen making her morning protein shake when I walked in. Didn't even look up from her phone. "Where were you last night?" she asked, still scrolling. "Had a really interesting talk with Sarah yesterday," I said. The way her head snapped up. Man, I'll never forget that look. Like she knew exactly what was coming. What did that jealous bitch say about me now? Amy tried to play it cool, but her voice was shaking. "I don't know, Amy. Maybe we should talk about your OnlyFans career? Or all those DMS you've been sending? Or how about those special photo shoots with Jen?" She tried to deny it at first. "I don't know what you're talking about. Sarah's just making stuff up because she's jealous of my success." "Success?" I laughed. "You mean scamming guys online while pretending to be single? Using our house for your photos? That kind of success?" Then she switched tactics real quick. Started crying, saying she only did it for us, to make extra money for the wedding. I was like, "Really? Is that why your bio says you're single?" "That's just marketing," she yelled. "You don't understand how this works. Jen says, Jen says, Jen says. That's all I've heard for months." "Well, guess what? I saw your messages with Jen too, about how you're too good for some tech nerd now, about how you need to upgrade." She went quiet for a minute, then her whole attitude changed. Got this weird smirk on her face. "Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I have an OnlyFans. Yes, I've been talking to other guys. And yes, I probably could do better than you now. Look at me. I'm hot. I've got options. What do you have? A dad bod and a coding job?" "I have self-respect," I said. "And apparently that's more than you've got right now." That made her mad. Started screaming about how I was trying to control her, how I was just insecure because she was finally confident and successful. "Successful?" I laughed. "You're taking half-naked pics in our guest bathroom and calling it success? That's what you think you're worth? At least I'm doing something with my life," she yelled. "While you're stuck in the same boring routine, I'm building something. I've got followers. I've got fans. You've got guys paying $5 to see your bathroom selfies. That's not success, Amy. That's sad." She threw her protein shake at me. Missed, but made a huge mess on the wall. "Get out," I said. "Pack your stuff and get out." "This is my house too." "Actually, it's not. The mortgage is in my name. You wanted to wait until after the wedding to add your name, remember? Guess that worked out pretty well for me." She started crying again, but I wasn't buying it anymore. Seen too many of her fake tears in those screenshots Sarah showed me. "You can't do this to me," she sobbed. "Where am I supposed to go? Maybe ask one of your subscribers? Or hey, maybe Jen has a spare room? Since she's so invested in your success and all." Spent the next 2 hours watching her pack while messaging someone on her phone. Probably Jen. Kept giving me these little looks like she expected me to change my mind. Finally, when she was at the door with her bags, she tried one last time. "You're making a huge mistake. I'm the best thing that ever happened to you." "No," I said. "The best thing that ever happened to me was Sarah showing me those screenshots." "Get out," called a locksmith as soon as she left, then sat down and cried for like an hour straight. 9 years of my life just gone. Sarah kept texting to check on me. She was really worried about how I was handling everything. With Amy out of my sight, I had to deal with all the wedding stuff. We'd already put deposits down on a venue, caterer, all that. Lost some money, but honestly, worth every penny to not go through with it. Calling her parents was rough. Her mom picked up, and I just said, "Hey, there's not going to be a wedding. Amy's been living a double life." Told them about the OnlyFans stuff. Her mom started crying. Her dad got on the phone and actually apologized to me. Said they'd noticed Amy changing but didn't want to say anything. Then things got really messy. Amy found out Sarah was the one who told me everything. She showed up at Sarah's apartment completely crazy. Sarah texted me about it later. "Amy just came here screaming. Said I ruined her life. She tried to hit me but I closed the door. She's still outside yelling." I called Sarah right away to check if she was okay. Could hear Amy in the background. "You stupid fat bitch! You ruined everything! I had it all planned out." Sarah was pretty shaken up. Told me Amy was saying all this stuff about how her plan was to keep me around until she got more followers and could secure a better guy. Real nice, right? Their parents had to come over to deal with Amy. Their mom was crying, dad was yelling. Whole scene. Sarah recorded some of it on her phone just in case Amy tried anything crazy. Amy was screaming at everyone. "You're all just jealous. Sarah's jealous because she's fat and ugly. Mom's jealous because she's old. And dad's just mad because his perfect little girl isn't so perfect anymore." Then she started telling them how much money she was making on off. Her dad looked like he was going to be sick. Her mom just kept saying, "Where did we go wrong?" Sarah stayed on the phone with me through most of it. We were both just like, watching this person we thought we knew completely lose it. Got a bunch of nasty texts from Amy after. "Hope you're happy with my fat sister. You'll regret this when I'm famous. Jen says you're just intimidated by strong women, Have fun being poor and ugly? Like, what happened to the girl I fell in love with? I called the venue and caterers the next day. The venue lady was actually super nice when I explained. Not everything. Just said my fiance was unfaithful. She managed to get half our deposit back. Figured that was the end of it, but nope. Amy had other plans. She actually tried to claim the refund for herself. Called the venue pretending we were still together. Said she was the bride-to-be and demanded the money be sent to her instead. Luckily, the venue already had my lawyer's info and shut that down fast. Decided to use that money to hire a lawyer. Wanted to make sure Amy couldn't try to claim any part of the house or my savings. Good thing I did. Turns out she'd also been telling people I owed her for all the time and effort she put into planning the wedding. Even tried saying I should reimburse her for her dress. Yeah, the dress she picked out and put on a payment plan with my credit card. Had to call the shop myself to block her from making any more charges. Sarah's been amazing through all this. Helped me cancel all the other wedding stuff, talk to guests, everything. Her parents keep thanking me for not blaming the whole family for Amy's choices. Amy tried coming by the house a few times. Just sat in her car outside like a creep. Called the cops once when she wouldn't leave. They talked to her, and she finally drove off. But something tells me this isn't the last time she'll try pulling something. A couple of weeks after everything went down, I found out through mutual friends that Amy's life isn't going so great. That whole influencer thing she was trying to build? Yeah, not working out. Turns out there's like 1 million fitness accounts out there, and most of them aren't trying to scam their followers. And Jen, that trainer who got Amy into all this? Well, she kicked Amy out after 2 weeks. Sarah heard from their cousin that Jen and Amy had this huge fight. Apparently, Amy wasn't bringing in enough money from her OF account, and Jen said she was bad for business. Real nice friend there, huh? Amy's been couch surfing since then. None of her new gym friends wanted to help her out long term. Weird how that works? All those people who were hyping her up about being too good for me suddenly don't want to deal with her. She tried moving back in with her parents, but that lasted like 3 days. Her dad couldn't even look at her after seeing the OF stuff. Her mom tried to get her to see a therapist, but Amy just screamed about how nobody understands her vision and left. Got some texts from her last week. I miss you. I made a mistake. Can we talk? Please answer me. I've changed. Didn't respond to any of them. Then she sent this long paragraph. I know I messed up. Nothing's working out like Jen said it would. I've lost all my real friends. My family hates me. I'm sleeping on some girl from the gym's couch. I miss our house. I miss our life. I miss you making me breakfast and watching stupid movies with me. Please just talk to me. I didn't flinch. It was like I lost all my feelings. I was dead cold. Sarah showed me Amy's social media. All those inspiring fitness posts are gone. Now it's just sad quotes about regret and making mistakes. She's lost most of her followers too. Turns out people can tell when someone's being fake. Amy's also been trying to find a real job, but it's not going well. Apparently, when you post certain kinds of content online, it makes job hunting pretty hard. Who knew? Everyone. Everyone knew. One of her gym friends, well, ex-friend now, messaged me last week. Hey, just so you know, Amy's been telling everyone you abused her and forced her to start an OF account. Nobody believes her, though. We all saw how she acted. Sorry you went through that, man. Like, what? I literally didn't even know about the account until Sarah told me. But Amy's so desperate to make herself the victim, she's just making stuff up now. She actually showed up at my work after those apologies she sent. Just stood in the parking lot until security made her leave. My coworkers were super confused. Had to explain the whole thing to my boss in case she tries coming back. Sarah says Amy started texting their mom at 3 a.m., crying about how she threw away the only good thing in her life. Their mom's heartbroken, but also like, yeah, you did. Too little, too late though. Can't unring that bell. But through all this mess, Sarah and I started hanging out more. At first, it was just talking about the Amy situation, helping each other deal with all that drama. Then we started getting coffee regularly, then dinner, then movies. Months passed, and what started as just mutual support slowly turned into something else. There was no rush, no pressure, just two people who'd been through hell together, figuring out what life looked like on the other side. Sarah's nothing like Amy. She's real, you know? No fake social media personality, no constant selfies, no trying to impress anyone. She laughs at my dumb jokes, actually wants to hear about my work, and doesn't care that I'm not some Instagram perfect guy. First time I realized I was feeling something more than friendship was when we were just sitting on my couch watching some terrible Netflix show. Sarah was making fun of the bad acting, and I looked over at her and just thought, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. We talked about it for weeks before anything happened. Both of us were worried about making things weird, about what people would say. Had a lot of long conversations about whether this was okay or if we were just trauma bonding or whatever. Finally, Sarah was like, look, Amy's gonna hate us no matter what we do. We might as well be happy. She was right. When Amy found out we were dating through their cousin's Instagram, she completely lost it. Started texting everyone in the family about how we were secretly together the whole time and how we planned this from the beginning. Sarah's parents actually defended us. Her dad told Amy, maybe if you hadn't treated them both so badly, this wouldn't have happened. Amy blocked them all after that. It's been 6 months now. Sarah moved in last month, took it slow, did it right. She actually helps with the housework, unlike Amy, who just took pictures of herself doing it for Instagram. We cook together, go hiking on weekends, normal stuff. Amy still tries to cause drama sometimes. She made this whole Instagram post about how some people will betray you in the worst ways, with a bunch of snake emoji. Sarah just laughed and was like, guess she finally looked in a mirror. She tried messaging me one last time. I hope you're happy with my leftover sister. Just remember, she'll never be as hot as me. You downgraded, and everyone knows it. Sarah saw the message and just said, wow, she really thinks being a decent human being is downgrading, huh? That's what I love about Sarah. She doesn't let this stuff get to her. She's confident in who she is without needing thousands of followers to validate her. We're planning a camping trip next month. Just us, some tents, no phones, no social media. Real life, you know? Sometimes I think about how weird it is that Amy's betrayal led me to someone so much better. Sarah says maybe we needed Amy to show us what we didn't want in life so we could appreciate what we do want. So yeah, that's my story. It feels good to finally have the whole thing written out. Thanks for all the support, Reddit. You guys helped me get through some really rough days. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks for all the awards and kind messages. And yeah, Sarah reads Reddit too. She's laughing at all your comments about her being the good sister. Final edit. To everyone asking, yes, we're really happy together. Sometimes the best things in life come from the worst. Story 4. This story is titled, I Ghosted My Ex, 2.5 years ago. Now she tracked me down to make me raise her affair baby. Hey everyone! If you're enjoying these stories and want to support the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps me bring you even more awesome content like this. Now let's start the video. OP starts by saying, back in 2015, I met Casey in college. She was smart, funny, and we clicked immediately. By 2019, we were pretty serious. I thought I had found the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with. So I worked my ass off at my factory job, saving every penny to buy her a ring. The plan was to propose on Christmas at her parents' house. I figured it'd be the perfect moment, surrounded by family, all cozy and festive. Casey's family was interesting. Her dad, Max, was chill, quiet, respectful, and generally a good guy. Her sister Sherry was nice too, super sweet and always supportive. But Jane, her mom, yeah, she hated me. No matter how hard I tried, nothing was ever good enough for her. She'd make snide comments about how Casey deserved better, or how I was just some guy with no ambition. Casey always brushed it off, saying, that's just how my mom is. I didn't buy it, but I kept trying because I loved Casey and thought Jane would come around eventually. For Christmas, I went all out. I got Sherry a laptop for college because she'd been talking about needing one, a nice barbecue grill for Max, and an expensive scarf for Jane. Honestly, the scarf was a stretch for my budget, but I figured it might soften her attitude toward me. Casey was supposed to meet us there after her shift at the hospital, so I decided to go ahead and hand out the gifts. Sherry cried when she saw the laptop. She hugged me, saying it was the nicest thing anyone had ever done for her. Max looked genuinely happy with the grill, and even Jane managed to force thank you for the scarf. For a moment, I thought maybe things were finally looking up, but Sherry started acting weird. She kept glancing at me, her eyes darting to Max and back like she was trying to decide whether to say something. Eventually, she pulled me aside into her room. Max followed, looking confused. Sherry was already tearing up as she said, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to ruin this, but I can't keep it in anymore. I had no idea what she was talking about until she handed me a pregnancy test. I just stared at it, completely frozen. It felt like my brain short-circuited. It's Casey's, she said. I found it last month. Then she dropped the bomb. Casey had been cheating on me since early in the year, and the guy was someone Jane had introduced her to. Sherry said Casey begged her to keep it a secret because she was figuring things out. I couldn't even speak. My chest felt tight, my hands were shaking, and my vision blurred. Max put a hand on my shoulder and said, Son, I'm sorry. I understand if you need to leave. That snapped me out of it. I nodded, thanked Sherry for telling me, and shook Max's hand. As I walked out of the room, I glanced at Jane. She was sitting on the couch, sipping wine, completely unfazed. I didn't say anything to her. I didn't trust myself not to explode. The drive home was a blur. By the time I got back to my apartment, I was shaking with a mix of rage and heartbreak. I called my family and told them everything. My mom was furious, saying, "You're better off without her." My sisters were ready to fight Casey, but I told them to let it go. All I wanted was to move on. That night, around 11 p.m., Casey started blowing up my phone. She kept texting, saying things like, "I can explain," and "Please just let me talk to you." I didn't answer. The next morning, I changed my number, deleted my social media, and started erasing her from my life. It hurt like hell, but I knew one thing for sure. I deserved better. After Christmas, I felt like I was in survival mode. Cutting Casey off wasn't just about avoiding her calls and texts. It was about protecting myself from everything she represented. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was humiliated, angry, and stuck replaying every moment of our relationship, trying to figure out how I missed the signs. She tried everything to get in touch. She called from blocked numbers, sent emails, and even tried reaching out to my family. Every message was the same. "It's not what it looks like," or "You're misunderstanding everything." I didn't bother responding. What was there to misunderstand? She cheated, got pregnant, and lied about it. End of story. I spent a lot of time with my family in those first few weeks. My mom, being the nurturing force she is, made sure I was eating and sleeping. My sisters were more direct, saying things like, "Dude, she's trash," and "She doesn't deserve a second of your time." They were blunt, but honestly, it helped. They reminded me that I wasn't the problem. She was. To keep myself busy, I dove into work. I started picking up extra shifts at the factory, not just to distract myself, but to build up my savings again. The money I'd spent on the ring? Gone. But that didn't sting as much as losing the life I thought I was building with Casey. I realized I needed to refocus on myself, so I started doing things I hadn't done in a while. I joined a local basketball league, reconnected with friends, and even tried learning how to cook. Spoiler, I'm still terrible at it, but it's fun. Slowly but surely, I felt like I was starting to heal. Then, in mid-2020, I got some news I wasn't expecting. A mutual friend texted me out of the blue saying, "Hey, did you hear about Casey?" I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. The friend told me that Casey's affair partner had ghosted her after finding out he was the father of her baby. Apparently, he wanted nothing to do with her or the kid. Casey was now a single mom, trying to figure things out on her own. My reaction? Honestly, I didn't feel much. A tiny part of me felt satisfied, like, that's what you get. But mostly, I just felt indifferent. Her drama wasn't my problem anymore, and I was relieved to be out of the mess. A couple of months later, Casey somehow got my new number. She called me, begging to talk. I don't know why I answered, but I regretted it immediately. She launched into this whole apology, saying she'd made a mistake and wanted to explain. I let her ramble for a bit before cutting her off. "Casey," I said, "I don't care anymore. Whatever you have to say, it won't change anything. We're done." That's when she switched tactics. She started guilt-tripping me, saying I owed her this, and that I was being unfair by refusing to hear her out. I told her flat out, "I don't owe you anything. You made your choices. Now live with them." Then I hung up. Not long after, Jane decided to get involved. She sent me a string of texts calling me a coward and saying I was running away from my responsibilities. I couldn't believe the audacity. Responsibilities? I wasn't the one who cheated. I wasn't the one who got someone else pregnant. I blocked her number too. For a while, it felt like they were everywhere, trying to drag me back into their chaos. But every time they reached out, it only solidified my decision to cut them off. I didn't want or need their explanations. I didn't want closure. I just wanted to move on. And eventually, I did. The calls stopped. The texts stopped. My days started feeling lighter. For the first time in months, I felt like I was in control of my life again. Mother's Day rolled around, and I was looking forward to spending it with my mom and one of my sisters, Raven. My mom has always been the heart of our family, and after everything that happened, I wanted to make the day special for her. We decided to grab lunch at Red Lobster because seafood is her favorite. It was supposed to be a calm, drama-free day. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. We were finishing up and about to leave when I saw them, Jane and Sherry. Of all people in all places, they had to show up there. My stomach dropped. Sherry looked like she wanted to sink into the floor when she saw me, but Jane, she locked eyes with me and immediately had her usual look of disdain. I could feel Raven tensing up beside me. She's always been protective of me, and I knew she was ready to go off. Jane's expression changed the moment she noticed Raven. She looked confused, almost shocked, like she was piecing something together. I realized she must have finally figured out that Raven was my sister, the same other woman she had accused me of cheating with. The audacity of it all made me want to laugh. Raven muttered under her breath, "Do you want me to handle her?" I shook my head. The last thing I wanted was a public scene. My mom gave Jane a cold, hard look before nudging me forward. "Let's just go," she said. But then Sherry stepped forward, practically begging, "Please, can we talk? Just for a minute. Alone." Raven wasn't having it. "Why would he want to talk to you?" she snapped. Sherry looked genuinely upset, and my mom stepped in, suggesting that I hear her out, away from Jane. I agreed, more out of curiosity than anything else. Sherry pulled me aside, far enough away that Jane couldn't hear us. She immediately apologized for everything that happened. "I'm so sorry for how things turned out," she said. "I miss having you around. You were like a brother to me." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded and let her continue. She told me Casey had been miserable since I left, crying all the time and saying she regretted everything. "I'm sorry she's struggling," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "But that's not my problem anymore. She made her choices." Sherry nodded, then told me something that made my stomach twist. "She destroyed the laptop you gave me," she said quietly. "It happened right after you left. She was mad at me for telling you the truth. That hurt. I'd given her that laptop out of genuine care, and Casey ruined it out of spite. Before I left, I asked Sherry a question that had been bothering me since Christmas. Why does your mom hate me so much? What did I ever do to her?" Sherry hesitated, then admitted, "She thought you were cheating. She saw you with another woman, Raven. She didn't know you were siblings." My jaw dropped. All of this, the cheating, the pregnancy, the heartbreak, started because Jane jumped to conclusions and convinced Casey I was unfaithful. I couldn't help but laugh. It was so stupid, so unnecessary, and yet it ruined everything. "Thanks for telling me," I said. "And hey, the laptop's warranty is still good. You can probably get it fixed." Sherry's face lit up, and for a moment, I saw the kind, shy girl I used to know. We hugged briefly, and I left to rejoin my mom and Raven. When I told them what Sherry had said, Raven rolled her eyes. "So Jane's not just a jerk. She's also an idiot. Good to know." My mom sighed and said, "Michael, you're better off without those people in your life." She was right. I'd spent so much time trying to make things work with Casey and her family, but it was clear now that they were never worth the effort. A few days after running into Sherry and Jane at Red Lobster, Sherry called me. She wanted help with the laptop warranty I'd mentioned, and since she'd been one of the few decent people in that family, I agreed to meet her at a local electronics store. When I got there, Max was with her, which honestly was a nice surprise. Max had always been solid. Out of all the chaos, he'd been the only one to offer me a genuine apology on Christmas. We chatted while sorting out the laptop. Max thanked me again for the grill I gave him and said how much he loved using it. Sherry was quieter but seemed relieved to have someone helping her out. It felt nice, almost normal. Afterward, Max suggested we grab lunch together as a thank you. I agreed, figuring it'd be a good way to catch up. We went to a small restaurant nearby, and for the first time in ages, I wasn't thinking about Casey or the drama. Max talked about his plans to redo their backyard, and Sherry mentioned how school was going, though she was clearly still dealing with tension at home. It was a surprisingly good time. Then, just as we were finishing up, I heard someone call my name. I looked up, and there she was. Casey. My heart sank. She looked rough, tired, stressed, and like she'd aged years since I last saw her. Part of me felt sorry for her, but the other part was just annoyed that she'd showed up and ruined what had been a peaceful afternoon. "Hi," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She glanced at Max and Sherry, then back at me. "Can we talk?" I stayed seated and crossed my arms. "What do you want, Casey?" She hesitated, then stepped closer. "I just want to explain. Please, I've been trying to talk to you for months." I sighed. "You've got 5 minutes. Go." She launched into an apology, saying she'd made a mistake and regretted everything. "I was confused," she said. "My mom convinced me you were cheating. She said she saw you with another woman." I cut her off. "You mean my sister?" "That's who Jane saw. Raven is my sister, Casey. If you'd bothered to ask instead of jumping to conclusions, we wouldn't even be here right now." Casey's face fell. "I didn't know," I thought. She trailed off, looking completely lost. "I should have talked to you. You just cheated," I said flatly. "For almost a year. Instead of trusting me, you lied, slept with someone else, and got pregnant. And you expect me to care about your excuses now?" Her voice cracked as she said, "I wasn't happy. I didn't know what to do." "You could have talked to me," I snapped. "You could have ended things if you weren't happy. But instead you went behind my back. That's on you." Max and Sherry sat there awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable with the whole situation. Casey started crying, which might have worked on me years ago, but not anymore. "Please," she begged. I want to fix this. I'll do anything. I shook my head. There's nothing to fix, Casey. You destroyed everything. I've moved on, and so should you. That's when she dropped the real bomb. But my son, he needs a father. He needs stability. I blinked, stunned by the audacity. Your son is not my responsibility. That's for you and his actual father to figure out. Oh wait, he ran off, didn't he? Sounds like a pattern. Casey flinched but didn't argue. Instead, she looked at me with tear-filled eyes and said, "Why are you being so mean?" Mean? I repeated. Casey, I worked overtime to save for a ring because I thought we had a future together. I planned to buy a house for us, to start a family with you. And you threw it all away. You don't get to call me mean for refusing to clean up your mess? She broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. Max finally stepped in and said, Casey, I think it's time to go. You need to respect his boundaries. She turned to Sherry, desperate for backup. Sherry, you understand, don't you? You know I regret everything. Sherry hesitated, then said, Casey, you're my sister, and I love you. But you made your choices. You can't expect him to just forget everything. Casey stared at her like she'd been betrayed, then stormed out of the restaurant. I sat there, stunned and exhausted, while Max apologized again. I'm sorry she showed up, he said. You've been through enough. It's not your fault, I replied. You and Sherry have been decent through all of this. That's more than I can say for the rest of your family. After lunch, I went home and told my family what happened. My dad laughed and said, Jane probably thought kicking you out would solve her problems. Look how well that worked out for them. My mom just hugged me and said, I'm proud of you for standing your ground. You deserve better. I realized then that Casey's apologies didn't matter. I didn't need closure from her. I'd already given myself that by walking away. After that confrontation with Casey, I thought I'd feel something. Relief, satisfaction, maybe even a sense of finality. But honestly, it felt empty. Closure wasn't what I expected. It wasn't neat, and it didn't magically make everything better. Instead, it just reminded me of how much damage had been done and how pointless it all was. A couple of days later, Sherry sent me a text thanking me for hearing her out and helping with the laptop. She said, I really miss having you around. You were like the brother I never had. That hit me harder than I thought it would. I told her I appreciated her honesty and that she didn't owe me an apology for Casey's mess. If anything, she'd been the only one in that family who acted with integrity. Hearing from Sherry made me reflect on how much I'd lost, not just with Casey, but with the parts of her family I'd grown close to. Max had always treated me with respect, and Sherry genuinely looked up to me. I didn't realize how much I missed having people like them in my life until that lunch. But I also knew staying in touch with them would mean risking Casey finding ways to worm back into my life, and I wasn't willing to let that happen. A week later, a mutual acquaintance reached out to tell me more about Casey. Apparently, she was still trying to contact old friends of mine, hoping they'd convince me to talk to her. She was struggling as a single mom, juggling work and raising her son alone after her affair partner completely ghosted her. I didn't feel vindicated hearing this. If anything, it just made me more certain I made the right choice by walking away. Her life was her responsibility now, and I wanted no part of it. Then there was Jane. I'd expected her to double down on her hatred for me, but surprisingly, she'd gone quiet. I guess the confrontation at Red Lobster left her with nothing else to say. Or maybe she realized how much damage her lies had caused. Either way, I was relieved to be free of her meddling. One thing Casey said during the confrontation stuck with me, though. She claimed she only cheated because Jane convinced her I was unfaithful. At first, I brushed it off as another excuse. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Jane had been meddling in our relationship from the beginning, planting seeds of doubt and encouraging Casey to find someone better. But Casey wasn't an innocent victim in all of this. She made the choice to cheat. She made the choice to hide it. And she made the choice to try and lie her way out of it when she got caught. In the end, it didn't matter who was more at fault. Jane and Casey were both toxic in their own ways, and I was better off without either of them. That night, I sat down with my family and told them everything. My dad chuckled and said, Son, Jane was looking for any excuse to get rid of you. That woman was always full of it. Raven smirked and added, And yet you're the one who came out ahead. Casey's stuck raising a kid alone, and Jane's probably tearing her hair out trying to fix things. Meanwhile, you've got a clean slate. That's a win. My mom, as always, was the voice of reason. She hugged me and said, Michael, I'm proud of you for standing your ground. You didn't let them manipulate you, and that takes strength. Final update. I thought things were finally done with Casey and her family. I had moved on, found peace, and was focusing on myself. But of course, Jane wasn't about to let things end quietly. A few weeks after the confrontation with Casey, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered, "Michael, it's Jane." Her sharp voice came through the line. I almost hung up right there, but curiosity got the better of me. What could she possibly want now? "What do you want, Jane?" I said, already annoyed. "We need to talk," she snapped, as if she was the one doing me a favor by calling. "It's about Casey and the baby." I sighed. "There's nothing to talk about. I've made my position clear. Goodbye, Jane." "Wait!" she barked before I could hang up. "I'm not asking you to get back with Casey. I just think you should take responsibility for your part in this mess." That got my attention. "My part?" I asked, incredulous. "What part is that, Jane? I wasn't the one who cheated. I wasn't the one who lied. So please enlighten me." Jane let out an exasperated sigh, as if I were the one being unreasonable. "Casey is struggling. She's a single mother because of a misunderstanding that could have been avoided if you just explained things to me from the start." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you seriously blaming me for Casey's affair? You were the one who introduced her to the guy. You were the one who convinced her I was cheating. Don't put this on me." Jane ignored my words entirely. "That baby needs a father, Michael. You were practically part of the family for years. It's time you stepped up and helped. If not for Casey, then for the child." I was so stunned I didn't know how to respond at first. When I finally found my voice, I said, "Jane, let me make this crystal clear. That baby is not mine. I owe you Casey and her kid absolutely nothing. And if you call me again, I'll block you just like I did before." "You selfish boy," she hissed. "Do you think you'll ever find someone better than Casey? She made a mistake, but she's still the best you'll ever do. You're throwing away a good woman over something so trivial." That did it. I laughed. An actual deep belly laugh, because it was so ridiculous. "Trivial?" I repeated. "Cheating for almost a year, lying about a pregnancy, and trying to manipulate me into staying? That's trivial to you? No wonder your family is such a mess." Before she could respond, I hung up and immediately blocked her number. I thought that would be the end of it, but Jane wasn't done. The next day, I got a call from Max. He sounded tired and stressed, which was unusual for him. "Michael, I need to apologize in advance," he said. "Jane's been out of control. She's planning to come to your workplace." "What?" I asked, completely caught off guard. "Why would she do that?" "She says you need to face her and take responsibility," Max explained. "I've tried talking her out of it, but you know how she is." I groaned, already dreading the confrontation. Sure enough, later that afternoon, Jane showed up at my job. She stormed into the office, demanding to see me. Thankfully, my manager intercepted her and asked what she wanted. "I need to speak to Michael," Jane said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "It's a private family matter." I was in the back, but I could hear her clear as day. My manager came to get me, looking concerned. "Do you know this woman?" she asked. "Unfortunately, yes," I said. "I'll handle it." When I walked out to meet Jane, she immediately started her tirade. "You've been ignoring me, and I won't stand for it," she said, glaring at me like I was a misbehaving child. "You're going to listen to what I have to say." "No, I'm not," I replied. "You're on private property, and you're disrupting my workplace. Leave now, or I'll have security escort you out." That only made her angrier. "You can't just ignore your responsibilities, Michael. I'll tell everyone here what kind of man you really are." I crossed my arms. "Go ahead. Tell them how your daughter cheated on me, lied about her pregnancy, and tried to manipulate me. See how much sympathy you get." Jane's face turned red, and for a moment, I thought she might actually explode. "You're a pathetic excuse for a man," she spat. "I hope you end up alone, because no decent woman will ever want you." Before I could respond, security arrived and escorted her out. My coworkers were obviously curious, but I just shrugged it off saying, "Crazy ex's mom." Long story. They didn't press further. Later that night, I got a text from Sherry. She apologized profusely for her mom's behavior and said Max was furious with Jane for embarrassing their family. "She's out of control," Sherry wrote. "Max is thinking about filing for divorce because of this." I told Sherry it wasn't her fault and that I didn't blame Max for wanting out. Jane had caused nothing but chaos, and honestly, I felt bad for him. The whole situation left me emotionally drained, but it also reinforced one thing. I made the right decision by cutting Casey and her family out of my life. They were toxic, entitled, and incapable of taking responsibility for their actions. And I wasn't about to let them drag me down with them. Story 5. My sister hired investigators to expose my fake success after I cut off my toxic family. Her plan backfired spectacularly. Hey Reddit, my sister hired investigators to prove I was lying about my successful life after cutting off my toxic family. She planned to expose me as a fraud at my grandmother's 85th birthday party. Their faces went absolutely white when the investigation report hit the table. Here's how it went down. The last time I saw my sister Victoria, she was smirking at me across our parents' mahogany dining table. Mom was sobbing into her napkin, while Dad's venomous words echoed through the room like they always did. I always knew you'd amount to nothing. That night, 5 years ago, was my breaking point. The final time I let my family make me feel utterly small and worthless. Mom, Hope, which is hilarious considering how little of that she gave me, pleaded between theatrical sniffles. Sweetheart, we just want what's best for you. If you'd just listen to Victoria about the job at her firm. I cut in, my voice surprisingly steady, despite the rage bubbling inside me. The entry-level admin position? The one where I'd be fetching her coffee? Victoria's perfect, infuriating smile didn't waver. Everyone has to start somewhere, little sister. Some of us just start higher than others. That familiar, agonizing knot in my stomach tightened. For 26 years, I'd been trapped in Victoria's shadow. She collected accolades. I collected criticisms. Every one of my achievements was weighed against hers and found lacking. Every single mistake I made became a family legend, whispered and retold at gatherings like folklore. Let me paint you a picture of what growing up in that house was like. When I was 8, I won the regional spelling bee. Studied for months, beat kids 2 grades older than me, came home with this huge trophy. You know what my parents said? That's nice, honey. Victoria just got accepted into the advanced math program. That was it. My trophy went on a shelf in my room where nobody saw it. Victoria's acceptance letter got framed and hung in the living room. When I was 15, I started coding. Taught myself from library books and free online courses. Built my first website for a local business and made $200. I was so proud. Thought maybe finally I'd done something they'd recognize. Dad looked at my work for maybe 30 seconds before saying, "That's cute. Victoria just got offered an internship at a law firm. Real career potential there." Every birthday, every Christmas, every single family gathering, the pattern never changed. Victoria was the star. I was the understudy who'd never get called to perform. The thing that really messed me up was how they'd use Victoria's success as a weapon against me. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became the family motto. Didn't matter what I was doing or how hard I was trying. It was never enough because Victoria had already done it better, faster, or with more recognition. High school was brutal. Victoria had graduated valedictorian 3 years before I started. Every teacher knew her name. Every teacher compared me to her. "Oh, you're Victoria's sister. She was exceptional. Are you planning to follow in her footsteps?" Like I had a choice. Like I wasn't desperately trying to carve out my own identity while drowning in her shadow. I remember my guidance counselor looking at my college applications with this disappointed expression. "These are good schools, Bailey, but they're not quite Victoria level, are they? Maybe you should aim a bit higher." Never mind that I had a 3.9 GPA and killer extracurriculars. I wasn't Victoria, so I wasn't good enough. The worst part was watching Victoria soak up all the attention while treating me like I was invisible. She'd walk past me in the hallway at school and not even acknowledge my existence. But the second we got home, she'd be the perfect big sister, offering advice I didn't ask for, suggesting improvements I didn't need, constantly positioning herself as the one who had it all figured out while I was just stumbling through life. And my parents ate it up. "Your sister is just trying to help," they'd say when I complained about her condescending attitude. "She wants you to succeed." No, she wanted me to know my place. Big difference. College was supposed to be my escape. I picked a school on the opposite coast, determined to finally be someone other than Victoria's little sister. For 2 glorious years, I was just Bailey. Made my own friends, pursued my own interests, studied computer science because I loved it, not because someone told me to. Then Victoria decided to get her MBA at a school 20 minutes from mine. Suddenly, all those connections I'd built, all that independence I'd fought for, gone. She'd show up at my campus events, introduce herself to my professors, network with the career counselors I was working with, and everywhere she went, she'd mention she was my sister, like she was doing me a favor by associating with me. "I already have a job," I said quietly at that dinner table 5 years ago. "I'm doing well at a tech startup." My father, Glenn, swirling his drink, scoffed. "Playing with computers, you mean? Meanwhile, your sister is running charitable organizations, making real differences in people's lives." The irony of that statement, given what I know now, is almost funny. I couldn't help myself. I muttered, "Making differences in her bank account, you mean?" The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria's perfect smile finally cracked. "What exactly are you implying?" she asked, her eyes flashing. Even then, some part of me must have known. Must have sensed that something about her perfect charity work didn't add up. The expensive clothes she wore to fundraising events, the luxury vacations she took as donor cultivation trips, the new car every year justified as necessary for representing the organization professionally. Before I could even respond, Mom swooped in. "Bailey, apologize to your sister, right now. After everything she's done for you." "Done for me?" I actually laughed. It sounded foreign, even to my own ears. What exactly has she done except make sure I never forgot my place? That was it. Dad slammed his glass down, the sound echoing through the room. "That's enough. You've always been jealous of Victoria's success. If you spent half as much time working as you do complaining..." "I work 60 hours a week," I yelled, standing up abruptly. "I'm leading development on a major project. But you've never once asked about it, have you?" "Sit down," Mom ordered, her voice sharp. "We're not finished." "Actually," I said, grabbing my purse, my hand shaking but my resolve hardening. "We are. I'm done being the family disappointment. I'm done watching you worship Victoria while treating me like I'm broken. I'm just done." Victoria, ever the manipulator, piped up with fake concern, dripping from every word. "Mom, Dad, she's just having another one of her episodes. Remember that time in high school when..." "Goodbye," I cut her off, already walking toward the door. "Don't try to contact me." Dad's voice, cold and laced with threat, followed me. "If you walk out that door, don't expect any help when you fail, and you will fail." I paused in the doorway, turning back for one last look. Mom's mascara-streaked face, Dad's rigid disapproval, Victoria's sickeningly satisfied smirk. They were a perfect family portrait, just as they always had been, with one glaring, unbearable imperfection. Me. "Watch me," I said, both a promise and a curse. Then I closed the door behind me. The first week after leaving was the hardest. I kept waiting for someone to call, to apologize, to tell me they'd overreacted and wanted to work things out. My phone stayed silent. Not a single text, not one voicemail, nothing. That's when I realized they weren't going to chase me. They were perfectly happy with their perfect little family of 3. I was the problem that had solved itself by walking out the door. So I threw myself into work with an intensity that probably wasn't healthy, but was definitely productive. The startup I joined was small, just 5 of us in a cramped office, surviving on ramen and energy drinks, and the conviction that we were building something revolutionary. We were developing project management software with AI integration before AI was the buzzword everyone threw around. My role started as a junior developer, but within 6 months I was leading the development team. Not because I was the best coder, though I was pretty good, but because I was the most driven. While everyone else went home at reasonable hours, I stayed, learned new frameworks, optimized our code, fixed bugs that nobody else wanted to touch. The founder, a guy named Trevor, pulled me aside one day. "Bailey, you're going to burn out if you keep this pace up." "I'm fine," I told him. And I was. Because every line of code I wrote, every problem I solved, every milestone we hit, it was proof that I was building something real, something they couldn't diminish or dismiss or compare to Victoria's achievements. Year 1 passed, then year 2. The startup got funding. We moved to a real office with actual furniture instead of folding tables. Hired more developers. Started landing enterprise clients. And through it all, my phone stayed silent. I told myself I didn't care, that I was better off without them. Most days I believed it, but there were moments, birthdays, holidays, random Tuesday afternoons, when I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to call Mom, to share good news, to hear someone say they were proud of me. Then I'd remember that conversation. Remember Dad's voice telling me I'd fail. Remember Victoria's smirk, and I'd put the phone down. Year 3 was when everything changed. Trevor wanted to retire. He'd built the company from nothing, taken it as far as he could, and was ready to move on. He offered to sell me his shares for a price I couldn't actually afford. That's when Hugh entered the picture. We'd gone to MIT together, lost touch after graduation, reconnected at a tech conference. When I told him about the opportunity, he didn't hesitate. "I've got savings. You've got vision. Let's do this." We bought out Trevor together, 50-50 partners in a company that was valued at $800,000 at the time. Seemed like an impossible amount of money. Seemed like we'd reached the peak. We had no idea. Year 4, we landed a contract with a major retail chain. They needed custom inventory management software that could integrate with their existing systems. It was complex, demanding, and exactly the kind of challenge I'd been waiting for. We delivered it 6 weeks early and under budget. Word spread. Suddenly, we were the company other companies wanted to work with. Revenue doubled, then tripled. We moved to a bigger office, hired 15 more people, started filing patents for our proprietary algorithms. Hugh handled the business side while I focused on development. It was the partnership I'd never had with my family, built on mutual respect, shared goals, and actual communication. Year 5 started with a magazine profile. Some tech journalist had caught wind of our growth and wanted to do a feature. I almost said no. The last thing I wanted was attention that might reach my family. But Hugh convinced me. Bailey, hiding your success doesn't make you humble. It just makes you invisible. The article ran in Tech Business Weekly. We got 100 new inquiries in a month. Investors started calling. One of them offered to acquire us for $12 million. We turned them down. This was our company, built on our terms, and we weren't ready to sell. That's also when Grandma Amy found out. She'd apparently subscribed to Tech Business Weekly years ago after Grandpa passed away. He'd been an engineer, and she kept the subscription as a way to feel connected to him. She saw my photo in the magazine and recognized me immediately. She didn't call right away, told me later she wanted to give me space. But she kept tabs, followed the company's growth, read every article, every press release, and she never told my parents. They don't deserve to know, she said when we finally talked. Not after what they did to you. 5 years passed, 5 years of absolute silence from them, but 5 years of building something they couldn't diminish. 5 years of becoming someone they wouldn't even recognize. 5 years of peace. Until my phone buzzed that morning with a message from my cousin Presley. Hey stranger, you're not going to believe this, but Grandma Amy's 85th birthday party is next month. The whole family's coming. Victoria's organizing everything, and she's planning something wild. She's been asking about you a lot. I stared at the message, my coffee growing cold beside my laptop. Through my office window, I could see the city skyline, the same view that had graced magazine covers featuring my company, the same view my family would never believe I owned. Another message from Presley popped up. You should come. Show them who you are now. My finger hovered over the delete button, but something stopped me. Maybe it was time. Time to show them exactly who Bailey Francis had become while they weren't watching. My phone buzzed again. This time, a news alert. Tech innovator makes Forbes 30 under 40. My own face stared back at me from the screen. I'd insisted they omit my middle name for the article. My family never read tech news anyway. I thought of Victoria, so desperate to know what I'd been doing, planning something wild for Grandma's party. My sister always did love a good show. Well, I murmured to myself, a slow smile spreading across my face. Let's give her one. I typed a quick reply to Presley. Tell me more about this party. Someone's been poking around your socials, Hugh said, dropping into the chair across from my desk. And I don't mean the usual tech journalists. I minimized the quarterly reports on my screen. Let me guess, my sister? Not directly. Hugh leaned forward, lowering his voice even though we were alone in my office. But that cousin of yours? The chatty one who messaged you about the party? She told me Victoria's been showing everyone pictures of you outside some luxury condo in Manhattan. Interesting, considering you've never posted anything about where you live. Exactly. Hugh had been my right hand since the startup days, back when we were coding in a basement apartment. He knew everything, including why I kept my success hidden from my family. He'd been there for the late-night conversations when I'd admit how much it hurt that they never reached out. He'd been the one to remind me that their silence was their loss, not mine. She hired someone, Hugh said flatly. An investigator. I felt that same familiar chill, the one I used to get before family dinners. The one that said danger was coming and I needed to be ready. You're sure? Remember Justin from MIT Security? His wife works for an investigations firm in the city. She overheard your sister's name mentioned in a briefing. Apparently, Victoria hired them 3 weeks ago. Paid $5,000 upfront for a full background check and surveillance report. $5,000. Victoria was that desperate to prove I was lying that she'd spent $5,000 on an investigator. The pettiness was almost impressive. My phone buzzed. Another message from Presley. OMG, you have to hear what Victoria just told everyone in the family group chat. She says you've been lying about everything. Says she has proof you're not who you say you are. I showed Hugh the message. He whistled low. She's trying to set you up for something big at that party. Let her try. I stood up, walking to the window. 15 floors below, people looked like ants scurrying between skyscrapers. The view I'd worked so hard to earn. The view that proved I'd made something of myself without their help or approval. She wants to expose me? Fine. But she might not like what she finds. What are you thinking? Before I could answer, my assistant buzzed in. Miss Francis, your 2 o'clock is here. The venture capital meeting. Thanks, Karen. Hugh nodded, heading for the door, then paused. Just be careful, okay? I know that look. You're planning something. After he left, I opened my laptop and pulled up my private email. 3 new messages from family members I hadn't spoken to in years, all asking variations of the same question. Was it true? Had I really been pretending to be successful? Uncle Robert. Bailey, your sister is saying some concerning things about your situation. If you need help, you can call me. Aunt Michelle. Is everything okay? Victoria showed us pictures of where you're supposedly living. It doesn't look like the success story we'd heard. Cousin Todd. Dude, what's going on? Victoria's telling everyone you've been lying about your job. I clicked delete on all of them. These people hadn't cared about me in 5 years. They didn't get to suddenly act concerned now just because Victoria was spreading rumors. My phone rang. Grandma Amy's number. My finger hovered over decline, but something made me answer. Bailey? Her voice was warm, familiar. The only voice from that family that didn't make my stomach clench. I heard you might be coming to my party. I'm thinking about it, Grandma. Good, because I think it's time. She paused. Your sister's planning something dramatic, isn't she? Seems like it. Then you should come, she said firmly. Not for them, for you. And maybe a little for me. I'd like to see what you've become. You already know, don't you? She laughed, that warm sound I remembered from childhood. The sound that used to make me feel safe when everything else in that family made me feel small. I've known for 3 years, ever since that article in Tech Business Weekly. You look just like your grandfather in that photo. Same determined eyes. Same stubborn set to your jaw when you're focused on something. My throat tightened. Grandpa had been the only other person in that family who ever believed in me. He'd passed away when I was 23, right before everything took off. You never said anything. You needed space to grow without them poisoning it. But now I think it's time they saw the truth. She paused. And Bailey? I'm proud of you. Your grandfather would be proud of you. You did exactly what he always said you would. You proved everyone wrong by being exactly who you are. After we hung up, I sat there for a long moment, staring at my phone. Then I pulled up my calendar. The party was in 3 weeks. That gave me just enough time to prepare. I called Hugh back into my office. Get Fletcher on the phone. Your lawyer? This is getting serious? Victoria wants to play detective? Let's show her what real investigation looks like. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. Fletcher, my corporate attorney, was thorough to the point of obsession. When I told him what Victoria had been doing, hiring investigators, spreading rumors, planning some kind of public humiliation, his eyes lit up like I'd handed him the case of his career. Fletcher was in his 50s, looked like someone's friendly uncle, but had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless in court. We'd worked together on several contracts over the years, and I'd learned to trust his instincts completely. Let me get this straight, he said, leaning back in his chair during our first meeting. Your sister hired someone to dig into your life, presumably to find dirt? That's the plan, seems like. And what exactly is she going to find? I smiled. A successful tech CEO with a clean record, 3 patents in software development, and a company valued at $12 million. So she's going to humiliate herself? He grinned. I love it. But let's make sure we're protected. I'm going to do some digging of my own. Into her. Into Victoria? If she's running a charity, there are public records, financial disclosures, tax filings. The whole thing is surprisingly transparent if you know where to look. He pulled out a legal pad and started making notes. Let's just say I've seen this type before. People who use nonprofits as personal piggy banks. They think nobody's paying attention because it's charity work. I hadn't expected that. The comment I'd made 5 years ago about her bank account had been pure instinct, born from years of watching her expensive lifestyle and wondering how a nonprofit director afforded it. You think she's stealing? I think, Fletcher said carefully, that someone who's this desperate to tear you down probably has something to hide herself. People who are secure in their own success don't need to destroy others. They just live their lives. He started requesting documents. IRS Form 990s, which all nonprofits have to file publicly. Annual reports from Victoria's organization. Board meeting minutes. Financial audits. Everything was technically public record, but nobody ever bothered to look at it because, well, who investigates charity organizations? Fletcher looked, and what he found was damning. The first red flag was the expense reports. Victoria's charity supposedly helped homeless families find housing and job training. Noble cause. But when Fletcher pulled the financial statements, things didn't add up. The organization brought in about $400,000 a year in donations. Operating expenses were listed at $320,000, leaving $80,000 for actual program services. Look at this, Fletcher said during our second meeting, spreading documents across his conference table. She's billing the charity $15,000 a year for office space. Want to know where that office space is? The spare bedroom in her condo? Seriously? It gets better. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Travel expenses. $90,000 last year alone. For a local charity that operates within a 50-mile radius, she somehow needed to take trips to the Caribbean, Europe, and Hawaii. All first class. All five-star hotels. He flipped through more pages. Consultant fees to 3 different LLCs, totaling $110,000 annually. I trace those LLCs. Want to guess who owns them? Victoria. Bingo. She's literally paying herself through shell companies. The charity pays consulting fees to businesses she owns, which then pay her directly. It's money laundering with extra steps. 2 days before the party, Fletcher called me into his office. The look on his face told me everything had gone from bad to worse for Victoria. You were right, he said, sliding a thick folder across his desk. Your sister's charity? It's a mess. She's been using it as a personal slush fund, overcharging for expenses, billing the charity for personal travel, even funneling money to shell companies she controls. I stared at the documents. Years of financial irregularities, all meticulously documented. I've already contacted the state attorney general's office, Fletcher continued. They're very interested. How bad is it? 6-figure embezzlement, maybe more. They're opening a formal investigation. The party was on a Saturday evening at the country club, the same one my family had been members of for 3 generations. The same one where Victoria had her debutante ball. The same one where I'd been told repeatedly, in subtle and not-so-subtle ways, that I'd never quite fit in with their crowd. I drove there in my Tesla Model S, the one with the custom paint job and premium interior, dressed in a designer suit that cost more than my parents used to spend on my birthday and Christmas combined. Hair professionally styled that morning. Confidence earned through 5 years of proving myself. Presley met me in the parking lot, her eyes going wide as I pulled up. Bailey? Oh my God, you look amazing! And holy crap, is that a Tesla? Thanks. I handed my keys to the valet, who looked at the car with obvious appreciation. His eyes went even wider when he saw the custom interior through the window. Victoria's been telling everyone you're broke, Presley whispered as we walked toward the entrance, her heels clicking on the pavement. She says you've been lying about everything, living in some terrible apartment in Queens, working minimum wage jobs at coffee shops. Is that what she's been saying? She's got this whole presentation planned. PowerPoint and everything. Says she hired some investigator who proved you're a fraud. Spent weeks putting it together. Even made a video montage of what she claims is evidence. Presley grabbed my arm. Bailey, I'm sorry. I should have warned you sooner, but I didn't think she'd actually go through with something this elaborate. Don't worry, I said, squeezing her hand. Let her do her presentation. I'm actually looking forward to it. The ballroom was decorated exactly how I remembered Grandma liked. Elegant, understated, with fresh flowers everywhere. White roses and orchids arranged in tall crystal vases. String quartet playing soft classical music in the corner. About 60 people milled around, most of them family members I hadn't seen in 5 years. The conversation stopped when I walked in. I could feel their eyes on me, hear the whispers starting. There she is! That's Bailey. I heard she's been lying about her life. Victoria's about to expose her. This is going to be awkward. Mom saw me first. Her face went pale, then red, then something I couldn't quite read. Maybe recognition that her daughter looked successful, despite their predictions. Maybe fear that Victoria's presentation might not go as planned. Maybe just surprise that I'd actually shown up. Dad was next to her, his expression hard and unyielding as ever. Same judgmental eyes I remembered. Same disappointed set to his jaw that said I'd never quite measure up. 5 years hadn't softened him at all. But it was Victoria who made the moment perfect. She was holding court near the bar, surrounded by relatives hanging on her every word. Designer dress that probably cost $5,000. Hair done professionally, makeup perfect. Every inch the successful daughter, the golden child, the one who'd done everything right. When she saw me, her mouth actually dropped open. For just a second, her mask slipped, and I saw genuine shock. Whatever she'd expected, a defeated woman showing up to defend herself maybe, or no one at all, it wasn't this. Not me looking confident and successful and completely unfazed by her grand plan. Bailey, she said, her voice carrying across the room, pitched loud enough for everyone to hear. You actually came. I'm surprised. The slight pause before surprised told me she'd meant to say something else, something cutting. But seeing me had thrown her off her script. Wouldn't miss Grandma's birthday for anything, I said, keeping my voice pleasant and neutral. No aggression, no defensiveness, just a granddaughter showing up for her grandmother's party. I walked past her toward Grandma Amy, who was sitting in a place of honor near the head table. Her eyes sparkled with something that looked like anticipation and pride. She'd known I was coming, known what Victoria had planned, and clearly had her own thoughts about how this evening would unfold. Happy birthday, Grandma. Bailey. She stood up, pulling me into a hug that smelled like her signature perfume, the same one I remembered from childhood, Chanel No. 5. The scent transported me back to better memories, rare moments of feeling valued in a family that mostly made me feel worthless. You look wonderful. Successful. Very successful. The emphasis on that last word wasn't accidental. Grandma knew exactly what Victoria had been saying about me. Thank you. Your sister's been very busy, she said quietly, just for my ears. Planning this party. Planning other things too. I heard. Good. She patted my hand. Then you know what's coming. And you're prepared? More than prepared. She smiled. That knowing smile that suggested she'd seen all of this coming from miles away. Then let's have dinner. I'm quite looking forward to dessert. The way she said it made it clear she wasn't talking about cake. Dinner was awkward in that special way only family gatherings can be. I sat at a table with Presley and some cousins who kept shooting me curious glances. The kind of looks that said they'd heard Victoria's stories, but weren't quite sure what to believe now that they'd seen me arrive in a Tesla wearing designer clothes. Mom and Dad were at the head table with Grandma and Victoria. I could see Victoria whispering to them urgently, see Mom's worried expression, Dad's anger building. He kept glancing my way with something between confusion and fury. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. I was supposed to show up defeated, or not show up at all. My confidence had thrown off their entire narrative. Uncle Robert leaned over from the next table. Bailey, it's been too long. How have you been? 5 years of silence, and now he wanted to chat. Doing well, Uncle Robert. Really well. That's good. That's good. He looked uncomfortable. Your sister mentioned you'd been having some difficulties. Did she? I smiled. What kind of difficulties? Well, you know, career troubles, financial issues, that sort of thing. Interesting. Did she happen to mention where she got this information? He shifted in his seat. She said she'd hired someone to check on you, just to make sure you were okay, you understand. Family looking out for family. How thoughtful of her. The dinner courses came and went. Salad, soup, main course. Every few minutes I'd catch someone staring at me, whispering to their neighbor, clearly confused about the disconnect between Victoria's stories and my actual appearance. Victoria kept glancing at her phone. She'd set up a projector and screen at the front of the room, ready for her big presentation. I could see her checking her notes, rehearsing whatever speech she'd prepared. After dessert, Victoria stood up and tapped her glass. The room fell silent immediately. She had that kind of presence. Years of being the center of attention had taught her how to command a room. Everyone, thank you so much for coming to celebrate Grandma Amy's 80-year birthday. She's been the rock of our family for so long, and we're blessed to have her. Applause. Grandma smiled graciously, though I caught the slight roll of her eyes that suggested she knew what was coming. But, Victoria continued, her voice taking on a serious tone that made everyone lean forward slightly, there's something else we need to address tonight. Something that's been troubling our family for years. I felt the room's attention shift toward me. Subtle at first. A few glances, some shifted seats for better views. Then more obvious, as Victoria's pause stretched out for dramatic effect. My sister Bailey, she said, and there was something poisonous in how she said my name, like it tasted bitter in her mouth, has been telling people she's successful, that she runs a tech company, that she's made something of herself, that she lives in Manhattan in some luxury condo and drives expensive cars. Mom looked like she might cry. Dad's face was stone. Several relatives had their phones out, presumably ready to record whatever was about to happen. But I've always had my doubts, Victoria went on, pacing slightly like a prosecutor addressing a jury. You see, Bailey and I haven't spoken in 5 years. She cut off all contact with the family, refused to come to holidays, birthdays, any family gatherings. And whenever anyone asked about her, we'd hear these vague stories about her tech job and her success. But no proof, no verification, just rumors and claims. She paused for effect, letting the implication hang in the air. That I'd been lying, that I'd cut them off because I was ashamed, that the family had been right about me all along. So I hired a professional investigator to look into her claims, to find out the truth about what my sister has really been doing for the past 5 years. where she really lives, what she really does for work, whether any of her success story is actually true. She pulled out a folder, theatrical, just like everything else about her, and held it up for everyone to see. And what he found is interesting, I suggested, standing up calmly. Victoria faltered, her script interrupted. What? What he found is interesting, right? I walked toward the head table, every eye in the room following me. My heels clicked on the hardwood floor, the only sound in the suddenly silent ballroom. Because I'm very curious what a professional investigator discovered about my life when I wasn't looking. You want me to read it? Victoria's confidence was returning. She thought she'd regained control. Fine. Everyone should know the truth. She opened the folder with a flourish and began reading, her voice strong and clear. Bailey Francis, age 31, currently residing at... She stopped. Her eyes scanned the page rapidly, and I watched her face change colors like a sunset. Pale to red, to something approaching purple. Currently residing where? I prompted gently. Currently residing in a luxury condo in Manhattan, valued at approximately $3.4 million. Her voice had gone quiet. The room had gone even quieter. Keep reading, I said. It gets better. Owner of TechBridge Solutions, a software company valued at... Her voice cracked slightly. Valued at? I prompted again. She looked up at me, then back at the paper. Her carefully practiced composure was cracking in real time. $12.2 million. The room erupted, relatives gasping, whispering, turning to each other in shock. Someone dropped their fork, the clatter unnaturally loud in the chaos. Keep reading, I said quietly. We're just getting to the good part. CEO and founder of TechBridge Solutions, Victoria read, her voice shaking now, her hands trembling enough that the paper rattled. Featured in Forbes 30 Under 40, 3 patents in artificial intelligence and machine learning applications. Estimated personal net worth? She stopped again, closed her eyes, opened them. Go on, I encouraged. Estimated personal net worth of $4.7 million. She looked up at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw actual fear in my sister's eyes. Real, genuine fear. This can't be real. This has to be a mistake. Oh, it's real. I pulled out my phone and projected it onto the screen Victoria had set up for her presentation. My Forbes article filled the wall. My face, my company, my success. All of it verified and documented by one of the most respected business publications in the world. The room went completely silent. Not the anticipatory silence from before, but the shocked silence of people realizing they'd been spectacularly wrong about something. Surprise, I said softly. Mom was crying now. Real tears, not the theatrical ones. Dad looked like someone had punched him. Victoria just stood there, the folder hanging limply in her hand. You hired an investigator to prove I was lying, I continued, addressing the room now. But he did his job. He found the truth. I just wasn't the truth you wanted. Bailey, Mom started. No, I held up my hand. You don't get to talk. Not yet. For 5 years, I've been building this. Working 16-hour days, taking risks, failing and getting back up. And not once, did any of you reach out to see if I was okay, to ask how I was doing, to offer support. We thought, Dad tried. You thought I'd fail. You wanted me to fail. Because that's what you'd been telling me my whole life, that I'd never be as good as Victoria, that I'd never measure up. I turned to Victoria. And you. You were so desperate to prove I was a fraud that you spent money hiring someone to investigate me. Did you ever stop to think that maybe I was telling the truth? That maybe I actually did succeed? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. But here's what's really interesting, I said, and nodded to Fletcher, who'd been standing quietly near the back. He walked forward, carrying his own folder. Everyone, this is my attorney, Fletcher Hall. He's been doing some investigating too. Victoria, would you like to tell everyone what he found? Or should I? All color drained from her face. What is this? Dad demanded. Fletcher opened his folder. For the past 18 months, Victoria Francis has been embezzling money from her charity organization. She's been billing personal expenses to the nonprofit, creating fake vendors, and funneling money into shell companies she controls. Current estimate of stolen funds is approximately $240,000. The room exploded again, this time with accusations, shock, and anger. Victoria's perfect reputation was crumbling in real time. That's not... I didn't... Victoria stammered. You didn't? Fletcher held up documents. Because I have receipts here for a Caribbean vacation charged to the charity. Business expenses for a charity that helps homeless families somehow included first-class flights to St. Bart's. Mom was sobbing now. Dad had gone from red to white to gray. The police are here, Fletcher said calmly. I was required by law to report the charity fraud once I discovered it. They've been building a case for weeks. Right on cue, two detectives entered the ballroom. They barely glanced at the birthday decorations as they approached our group. We're looking for Victoria Francis, one said, showing his badge. Mom whispered, looking at Victoria like she'd never seen her before. We know, the detective said. We just arrested her business partner in the parking lot. The room exploded again. Relatives gasping, Mom sobbing, Dad arguing with the detectives. Through it all, Grandma sat calmly, sipping her champagne. Well, she said to me quietly, was it worth the wait? I watched my parents rushing out to find Victoria, watched my relatives huddle in shocked groups, sharing stories of how Victoria had borrowed money or made promises through her charity. I didn't want this, I admitted. You just wanted the truth, Grandma said. And now everyone has it. She stood up, commanding attention like always. This party is not over. My granddaughter, my successful, honest granddaughter, is finally home, and I want cake. Later, as servers cut the elaborate birthday cake Victoria had ordered, Presley brought me a glass of water. That was intense, she said. But you know what's crazy? No one's even surprised about Victoria anymore. They're all talking about you, about how they should have seen it. Seen what? That you were the strong one. The real deal. She clinked her glass against mine. Victoria tried to tear you down and exposed herself instead. That's some karma. My phone buzzed. A text from Hugh. News about your sister's arrest is hitting the business feeds. Want me to handle PR? No, I typed back. Let the truth speak for itself. Bailey. Dad's voice made me look up. He stood awkwardly, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Your mother and I are going to the police station. But first, I need to say... I cut him off. Save your apologies. They're 5 years too late. He nodded slowly, understanding finally showing in his eyes. You really did it, didn't you? Everything we said you couldn't do. No, I corrected him. Everything you never bothered to see me do. As he walked away, Grandma raised her glass in my direction. Around us, relatives were already shifting, adapting to the new family dynamic, one where Victoria wasn't the golden child and I wasn't the failure. Happy birthday, Grandma, I said, raising my glass in return. She smiled, that knowing smile that suggested she'd seen this coming all along. Oh, sweetheart, this is just the beginning. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. Story 6. That delicious piece of fruit might actually be the forbidden rotmouth. Yuck. It's also infested. Cheating. A word that carries with it a heavy weight of betrayal has the power to unleash dark consequences in the realm of all cheating revenge stories. Few are as devastating as the story of the unfaithful wife of 38 years who surrenders to the forbidden romance of a young self. The belly tingles seem to be fun and games until it makes her seriously ill, finding herself entangled in the risk she took. She confesses her dark secret, but she never expected her husband to be a true Sigma male. Before we start with a fake piece of fruit in the like button's fridge and leave it there. Warning. The following revenge story will be upsetting to cheaters. My story is from 2021, 2.5 years back already. I've come here to share it anonymously. But it isn't about my husband and me. We've been happily married for 14 years. Rather, this unfortunate event involved my mother, a 59-year-old woman, and what she did to my father, a 63-year-old man. So it's not just the young women having affairs. Sometimes it's older women, too. They had been happily married for over 38 years until everything changed last Thursday. My parents retired to Arizona 3 years ago. They bought a beautiful home along the river and a new diesel truck with a camper from October through April. They enjoy their time in Arizona, and for the rest of the year, they embark on explorations, often traveling to cooler places like the mountains or the West Coast. They also spend 4 to 6 weeks with my family here in the high-elevation country of Utah. My husband has set up full RV hookups on our property for them, complete with electricity, water, and septic connections. We own 16 acres, and my husband, kids, and I always love their company. We love visiting their home in Arizona, too. It's always an exciting experience with their boat and jet skis. So much so that we sometimes go in the midsummer heat. My brother and his family, who live in Georgia, also visit my parents at least once a year. They can't visit as frequently as we do, but they make the effort. Until recent events, I could proudly say that my mom and dad had an ideal marriage. Both my parents were role models for my brother and me. We raised our families based on the values they instilled in us. So you get the picture. Our family life was as ideal as it gets by the American dream standard. Now let me tell you about how things changed. My parents lived in a great community in Arizona. Everyone there was friendly except for this one woman. There was something about her that I couldn't put my finger on it. She just rubbed me the wrong way. Let's call her Josephine. Josephine, a 64-year-old divorcee who enjoys partying, was loud and obnoxious. Surprisingly, my mom hit it off with Josephine, and they became good friends. A red flag right there. As my mom is typically not a party person and drinks socially only a few times a year, several of my mom's friends also became close to Josephine. Despite her obnoxiousness, they seemed to like her. On numerous occasions, I expressed my suspicions about Josephine to my mom, but she brushed them off, assuring me Josephine was harmless and had a heart of gold. Here's where things started going south. Josephine bought a boat a few months ago, which my dad helped her choose, and both my parents taught her how to drive it. Last Tuesday, my mom, Josephine, and another friend who I'll call Jenny went out for happy hour drinks around 6 p.m. The second red flag. They headed to a local river bar on Josephine's boat, planning to enjoy a couple of drinks near the water and chat for a few hours. My dad informed me that around 8 o'clock, Mom called saying they were going to stay out for another hour. She mentioned that they had bumped into a friend of Josephine's and planned to stop by this person's riverside home for a bit. This was another red flag as Mom was extending her evening out. Moreover, the identity of this friend was a mystery. However, Dad didn't seem concerned, and Mom returned home just after 9. Everything appeared normal. Wednesday came and went. Then on Thursday, the three ladies planned to go back to the bar to relax and enjoy happy hour drinks on the patio. This was red flag number 4, as I mentioned earlier. Mom doesn't typically drink, yet within the same week and just over a few days, she was out twice socially raising and enjoying happy hour drinks. This sudden change in behavior was a huge warning sign. That evening, Dad and Jenny's husband planned to work on their cars, so the ladies going out was not an issue. They left by boat around 6:30 p.m. and planned to return no later than 9 p.m. Dad and Jenny's husband wrapped up their maintenance work around 8 p.m., and Dad returned home and took a shower. Upon finishing, he noticed a missed call from Mom. Curious, he called her back. Mom asked if he could pick her up, saying that Josephine and Jenny wished to stay out later, but she wanted to come home. Agreeing. Dad drove the short distance to the bar and picked her up. Mom seemed normal during the short ride back home. However, Dad mentioned in retrospect that he did most of the talking while Mom mostly listened. Upon arriving home, Mom fell to her knees in front of Dad and started hugging his legs, her head resting against his stomach. At first, Dad thought she might be getting frisky for sexy time, but then he realized she was crying. He lifted her up, held her, and asked what was wrong. Mom confessed to Dad that she had cheated on him. He was taken aback, asking her, "Come again?" The second confirmation, Dad said he was in total shock and just kept hugging Mom while she held him tightly crying. Can you imagine that? They had been married for 38 years, a total of 40 years together, and their marriage had been perfect. Now she was confessing to cheating on him. He had to be shell-shocked. Eventually, reality set in and he told her to take a shower and that they would talk in the morning. Refusing to let go, Mom clung on to him. He managed to lead her to the bathroom where she showered. When she emerged, he told her she'd need to sleep in a separate bedroom, despite her pleas for him to share the bed with her. He refused, and calmly told her they discussed matters in the morning. Throughout the night, Mom was unable to fall asleep, repeatedly approaching the bedroom door, asking Dad to talk. He kept urging her to rest, promising to talk in the morning. Finally, around 5:30 a.m., she fell asleep, waking up at 8 a.m. to find that Dad was gone along with his camper. Unbeknownst to her, he had moved all his personal belongings into the camper overnight, symbolizing his decision to separate from her. He was done with her, a strong response to her infidelity. Despite their 40-year history together, Daddy was handling this situation like a pro. He managed to move his belongings without disturbing Mom. Their bedroom has a sliding door that opens to the patio, which allowed him to take all his clothes and personal items out through the back door, load them in the camper, and leave. Mom started calling him, and initially he didn't pick up. He then sent her a text stating that as of 6 a.m. on April 9th, they were officially separated, which was that exact same morning. At this point, Mom totally lost it. She called Dad again, and he picked up this time calmly repeating what he had written in the text. He told Mom he was divorcing her, and until the divorce was finalized, he'd be living in the camper. Mom pleaded with him to talk and give her a chance to explain, but he said he wasn't interested. He told her she'd hear from his attorney once he had one before hanging up. Dad said he contacted Jenny's husband, remember? Jenny was the friend who went out with Mom and Josephine, and he informed him about what happened to Mom. I don't know how exactly, but Jenny's husband busted her for cheating too, and locked her out of the house. So Jenny is currently staying with Josephine until they sort things out. After talking to Mom, Dad called my brother and me, breaking the news to us. We were shocked initially thinking it was a joke. When the reality of the situation dawned on us, I couldn't help but cry. Since then, Mom has been a complete wreck. She spent the last week driving to every campsite in the region looking for Dad. She's logged over 1,800 miles. My brother and I know Dad's whereabouts, but have promised not to disclose this to her. We both fully support Dad in this situation and want to respect his wishes as he is the victim here. However, we are deeply worried about Mom. She hasn't been eating or sleeping, driving around frantically trying to find Dad. We fear she might have an accident, suffer a heart attack, or even harm herself, as she keeps saying she doesn't want to continue without Dad. Now the question we face is, should my brother and I reveal Dad's location to ease Mom's anxiety? I believe we should not, as Dad explicitly asked for his privacy, and divulging his location might result in him losing trust in us. His request for privacy should be respected. We could tell Mom where Dad is promising she wouldn't go to him. This might give her some peace of mind, but it could damage our relationship with Dad if he found out. We need to support Dad, who was blindsided by his wife's actions, and maintain his trust. What we need to do is to respect Dad's request providing support for him. I know we must back Dad fully, as Mom was the one who caused this situation. And now she must face the consequences. I'm just thinking out loud. What should we do? Help me, please. A very concerned daughter. One day later. But I feel the need to update. Mom was in the St. George area the previous evening, looking for Dad. For those unfamiliar, St. George is in southwest Utah. I persuaded Mom to drive up to our house and spend a few nights with us. She agreed and was expected to arrive this afternoon. I'll update everyone later. In the meantime, please keep your tips coming. I really appreciate it. The following was valuable to me. This situation is just terrible, and I sympathize with you and your brother. You sound like good kids that love their parents. I think you're doing the right thing by honoring your father's wishes and not disclosing his location. He's the injured party here, and he needs time away from your mother to think they've been together so long. I do hope they can work things out. This is another example of a man devoting his whole life to a woman only to have her disrespect him in the worst way. There's no coming back from this. My wife and I have been married for 24 years, and if she pulled something like this on me and I found out, I'd lock her out of the house and immediately file for divorce. Listening to your story is very unnerving. I can understand your dad's frustration and anger with this situation, but I would encourage him to take the high road and forgive your mom. It was a single mistake, and she immediately confessed. That says something about her character. They've had 38 years, great years together. That's not something we're throwing away over 1 hour of bad judgment. I don't buy your mom's story that this was a spur-of-the-moment thing. Where were they on Tuesday night when she stayed out for an extra hour to go to a friend's house? I bet if you press her, you'll find these 3 ladies, as you call them, hooked up with these guys then. How do I know this? I once was a cheater myself, and I can spot another. Cheaters lies a mile away. Over the last 10 days, a significant turn of events had occurred. Mom arrived at my home looking terrible and expressing that she didn't feel well. We talked shortly, everyone greeted her, and we let her rest in one of the bedrooms. But an hour later, my youngest daughter starts screaming for me to come to the bedroom. When I got there, I see my mom doubled over in pain from her lower abdomen and pelvic areas. She couldn't move, so my husband carried her to the car, and we rushed her to the emergency room. She was in terrible pain and was sweating and appeared to have a serious fever. At the hospital, the doctors suspected some sort of infection, possibly a urinary tract infection, and ordered tests. They also treated her for severe dehydration. As it turns out, Mom had contracted a sexually transmitted disease from the man she timed. Thankfully, it was one that was curable with antibiotics. The doctor recommended an overnight stay in the hospital for Mom until her fever subsided and her condition improved. However, after 48 hours, there was no noticeable improvement. Here is where the situation became way worse. The doctor said she might have a drug-resistant form of the STD that has been spreading over the past few years, so they put her on a cocktail of strong antibiotics. After 5 days, her fever finally broke and her condition stabilized. She was discharged from the hospital yesterday. During her stay in the hospital, Mom constantly asked about Dad. She wanted to know if he had called to check on her. I told her the truth that he hadn't called not even once, but that I was keeping him updated daily. My family and I visited her multiple times each day, ensuring she wasn't alone for long periods. However, this made her incredibly depressed. Now, at home with us, Mom seems to be recuperating physically. She's been obsessively texting and calling Dad since she arrived. In frustration, she said, "You'd think after 40 years together he at least talk with me." Hearing this, I was so infuriated that I lashed out at her and said, "If you didn't freak around, none of this would have ever happened. This is all your fault. You ruined our family." While this was true to the core, I immediately felt bad for saying this and apologized to her. She just broke down and started crying and kept hugging me. We talked for over 2 hours and she spilled the beans. Turns out the guy she slept with was a 28-year-old construction worker who was working a project in the area. This guy was lurking on a 59-year-old married woman. What a douche simp. He and his two friends rented a trailer on the river for 6 months instead of staying in a hotel. Here comes the dark part. According to Mom, she just talked to the guy on Tuesday while Josephine and Jenny were sexy, timing the two other guys. Yes, you heard that right. But when she went back on Thursday, she was so drawn in by his advances that she couldn't hold back her belly tingles and sexy time to the guy. I was disgusted by hearing this. It's so disgusting. I never imagined in my wildest dreams my own mom would do such a thing. I pressed on the subject, but Mom felt more and more discomfort, clearly not wanted to talk about it anymore, but I forced it out of her. I kept asking how she could do such a thing to Daddy, and all she could say is that she honestly doesn't know, but quickly regretted her actions as soon as she and the guy started doing it. Thinking back and telling you, this just makes me feel gross. I'm so grateful she confessed to Dad. My poor dad. Imagine if she didn't, and she transmitted the STD to my sweet unbeknownst dad. That would have been a terrible turn of events. A brutal tragedy even. Mom still believes Dad will return. However, he's made up his mind and he isn't known for backtracking. Mom intends to leave on Saturday to resume searching for Dad. She plans to comb through all the campgrounds in the Southwest, unaware of what awaits her on Friday. I know something she doesn't, but I can't tell her. Listen to this. Dad is planning to serve Mom with divorce papers at my house. He wanted her to be surrounded by family when he does this to ensure she has support. Friday is going to be a tough day, a real rough one. I feel guilty knowing what's about to happen, but I owe it to Dad to help him with this. Also, I need to be there for Mom when she inevitably breaks down. I'll update if anything major happens. For now, let's hope it doesn't find a very concerned daughter. A substantial amount of time has passed since my last update. In fact, it's been over 13 months. It's now June of 2022, and people have been asking about the situation with my parents. I hadn't used this website for the past year, but after checking the comments on my previous post yesterday, I saw the requests for an update. Here it is. Mom and Dad are divorced. A fact that I still find hard to believe, as well as what has transpired in their lives since Dad was unable to forgive Mom for her infidelity. He's a strong man, not someone who would accept such a betrayal lightly. He wanted no contact with Mom. In fact, the only time he saw her after leaving in the camper was at the divorce hearings. I understand why he was upset, but I was taken aback by how quickly he cut Mom out of his life. However, he ensured the financial distribution was handled fairly. Mom was treated more than generously. He simply wanted out of the marriage and to be done with her. While this hurts me deeply to write it down, I can understand his feelings of betrayal and disrespect. Mom now lives in a small apartment close to us. As I said, she used to have a lovely house on the river in Arizona with boats, jet skis, and a camper. She and Dad used to travel across the country in the summer, visiting coasts and mountains, but now she's residing in a town near her daughter in a small apartment. I can only imagine the regrets she must feel, considering all that she gave up for a brief moment of thrill. A cheap happy hour for an even more rotten apple in return. I digress because I want to emphasize this part. From my dad's side, it went swift and fast. Not so much for my mom post-divorce. Mom's health immediately deteriorated again. She was hospitalized due to bronchitis, dehydration, malnutrition, and severe depression. She spent 3 days in the hospital where she was treated and prescribed medication for her depression and anxiety. The medication seemed to help stabilize her mental state and at least calmed her mind. Unfortunately, she was also diagnosed with a potential case of lupus, likely triggered by the stress of the divorce and losing my father. The doctor said that severe stress can compromise the immune system and exacerbate lupus-like conditions. Given her difficulty in fighting off the STD and bacterial bronchitis, it's clear her immune system is in a weakened state. The doctor gave Mom specific recommendations to strengthen her immune system and help manage her stress. She has to actively work at de-stressing to keep control over her stress levels. She's been improving over the past 6 months. But she's not the woman she once was. Mom used to be so strong and in control, but now she's frail, broken, and has lost all her vigor. A few months ago, I managed to find her a job at a craft superstore where my friend is a manager. She's been doing great there and has been commended as a wonderful employee. Hopefully, this job will give her a sense of purpose. However, the reality is quite grim. She has lost the luxuries she once had as on prescription medication. Stress is actively eating at her while she keeps fighting it to keep control of her emotions. And again, she lives in a small apartment near me at 59. She's back to work in retail. Her life has changed dramatically, to say the least. But enough of my mom. As for Dad, he's certainly not wasting any time. He seems to be enjoying his newfound freedom as a nomad, traveling wherever he pleases in his camper. He loves the outdoors and discovering new places. In the past 6 months, he started seeing a woman, and things appear to be getting serious between them. However, I urge him to proceed cautiously, given his recent divorce of a 40-year relationship with Mom. But I've met her several times, and she's very nice and treats my dad very well. I don't want it to come off bad, but I don't know how to put it without making it sound ironic. But she's a really young woman. They share traveling interests as she is a traveling YouTube vlogger for the past 4 months. She and Dad have been camping all over the country. She hasn't featured Dad on her YouTube channel, but has mentioned him in several of her videos. They really seem to have a great relationship, and Dad told me directly that he's happier than he's ever been. Despite his happiness, he reassured my brother and me that he has no plans to marry again. Interestingly, his girlfriend feels the same way. She had a failed marriage once and doesn't wish to repeat the experience. She loves nature and spending time outdoors, so they seem to be a perfect pair. I believe I've covered everything. I want to thank everyone for the guidance and advice I received here. It was incredibly helpful during this difficult time. Lastly, I want to express my gratitude for the interest in my family situation and for all the thoughtful responses you sent. Signed, a loving and hopeful daughter. That wraps it up, folks. I'm curious to what your take on this story is, as it seems. Age doesn't always equate to wisdom or good decisions. In the end, her poor decision caused her to lose her husband, her lifestyle, and the respect of her family. In essence, her whole life had crumbled due to her actions. Do you think our guy played his cards right, or did he fold too soon? Here's a fun little brain teaser to mull over while staying in your vengeful zone. Imagine, if you will, you're wearing Dad's shoes. You've spent nearly 4 decades in wedded bliss, only for your better half to suddenly forget the fidelity part of the vow. And then plot twist. They confess, begging for forgiveness. Would you absolve them and forgive? Could you overlook this lip, treating it as just a shadow over an otherwise sunny marriage? Or would it be a deal breaker? The straw breaking your back, turning you thirsty for nuclear revenge? Let royally, I know. See you in the next one.